Hey guys, Mr. Ree here with some quick pre-context for what you're about to see, and of course a reminder that pre-context can still get you pregnant. This is a full talent tier list for the Arbites class, so this took several hours. I did it live with over 200 people watching on YouTube, which was awesome. I didn't think there was 200 people in the world who would watch my dumbass do this, let alone 200 at the same time. And this was a ton of fun. So thank you all of you who tuned in live. Thank you especially those of you who donated and supported, and extra especially to those of you who called out my stinky misinformation when I tried to mislead and deceive my gullible audience by reading talents as they are written instead of reading them in the arcane language that Fat Shark actually intended. So I went back in post and corrected some of the things that have been since patched, such as the dog's bleed talent. You'll catch that fairly early, and I edited it all together and got the pauses and all that stuff cut out. So I hope you really enjoy. Before I get you started, let me just quickly explain what you're going to see on the screen. We are doing the classic D through S rankings. The D tier stuff is really, really, really bad. Like, it really just doesn't belong in any build. Like, you'd be better off. It's just dead nodes, right? They're either broken nodes that are dead and don't actually do anything at all, or they effectively don't do anything at all. C tier is like, okay, really only pick this if you're going for a meme build and you want to like really hyper focus on one sort of thing. B tier, those are just kind of standard. I don't think you're gonna like super boost your power or super nerf your power by choosing these either way, but there's probably better stuff. A tier is getting really, really solid. These are usually things where you're committing very hard to one particular play style, and you can get a lot of value if you're using certain weapons and certain play styles. And then finally, S tier are insanely strong talents that would be strong. I mean, they're not only strong on this class, but they would be strong on any class. These are the cream of the crop, and there are a good number of these too. So why don't you grab yourself some carrot sticks and some orange juice and settle in. We're gonna have a good time. It's gonna be a good couple of hours. I'll stick up some fucking Subway Surfers or something in the bottom corner for y'all. And remember to like and subscribe if you want more tier lists, and I'll talk to you very soon. Mr. Real, bye. Okay, now let's get back to it. With No Escape. No Escape is 10% damage and 10% movement speed on elite or special skill lasting 4 seconds. Now, the operative thing here isn't the damage. Damage is not really a massive consideration for this class, since it has so many other ways of scaling its damage, but movement speed is so valuable in Darktide. And there is something very important that we need to note right up front about the way Arbites interacts with these on kill, on hit, on I think it's about it, right? On stagger nodes. The dog can also do this for you. So if the dog claims an elite or specialist kill, you get this buff, which is very, very big, especially when you're going into the bottom left Keystone execution order, as we'll talk about in a minute. Very, very powerful Keystone, and it can allow the dog to pick up kills fast enough that you have this buff fairly constantly. That 10% movement speed is kind of huge. However, I don't think that this is on the tier with some of the other competitors in this top row, even. So I'm gonna give this one an A tier, just because. Oops, I've already fucked up grabbing stuff. I'm gonna give this one an A tier because I think that while it is very strong, it's only strong on certain types of builds. If you were going a non-melee focused build, this would be the node you'd want to pick up. If you do not plan on prioritizing your melee at all, and you're going to shoot your way through the map, pick this node. That's what I would say. In the middle here, we have our Withering Fire. 15% range damage for 5 seconds after reloading. Here's my opinion on buffs in this game. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think buffs that are under 8 seconds, 7 to 8 seconds, need to be really, really good in order to give you the appropriate amount of value. This is a small window, and therefore it's not going to grant you a whole lot of value outside of a certain subset of weapons. So there are certain weapons that really, really like this buff. Obviously, it's all the shotguns that like it, right? You can reload a single shell and get this buff for 5 seconds. So that's really nice. You can reload the revolver, a single bullet, and get this. There's a lot of weapons on the Arbites class that synergize with this very well. But I think overall, the benefit out of this isn't like crazy. You could take it if you're going for like a meme focused, like specifically double barreled shotgun, street sweeper shotgun sort of build. But outside of that, I think you should probably save the point. I want to give this one a B tier. It's just kind of average, right? This is the same thing that's on the Ogren, right? It's just kind of an average. It's still 15% range damage, and there's a lot of weapons that get that value on this class. It's a very reload heavy class, but I just don't think it's like anything to go crazy about. Not compared to Hammer of Judgment. 10% melee attack speed for 3 seconds on hitting 3 or more enemies with a melee attack. Due to the way that so many of his weapons, especially his top tier weapons, can sweep through tons and tons of enemies, I'm going to give this one the S. I think that this is definitely an S tier ability. I'm going to make these a little bit larger. What do you think? Yeah, that's probably right. Let's make these a little bit larger. And this node is one of a couple nodes in this tree that stack up and all together offer some crazy attack speed. This class can have between 20 and 35% additional attack speed depending on which nodes that you take, and that crazy scales some of his melee weapons, because some of his melee weapons, as we addressed in yesterday's video, are like the best in the game. Especially that Mark III Arbites shock maul. That thing is absolutely nuts, and wouldn't you know it, it has a really good swing pattern for hitting multiple enemies in single swings. So it's very easy to trigger this ability, and it's a 3-second duration. Swing speed is more important the more surrounded you are by enemies. So there you go, right? It's pretty easy. As you'll see over and over again, attack speed is king on this build. Future editing Mr. E here. The information given about Razor Jaw augment here ended up being outdated, since they have since released a hotfix that has made this buff a lot better. The current version of Razor Jaw augment now applies 16 stacks of bleed to any target that is pounced, as long as they are a small humanoid-sized target, and 8 stacks of bleed to any enemy that is touched by the pounce. If they are a larger target, such as a crusher or a reaper, they'll get 8 stacks of bleed applied to them, since they are only simply knocked away. But this detection on the knockback for the bleed seems to be much better. It's more consistent applying to nearby enemies, and enemies that are even grazed by the dog while he's pouncing will count for those bleed stacks. I think it's a very effective talent, and it allows you to finish off enemies really quickly, or allows the dog to finish off enemies really quickly, and it honestly stacks some fairly decent additional damage against bosses. So I went ahead and you'll still show C tier here, but it is an S tier by our eventual rankings. Let's look at target neutralized here. Replenish 10% of toughness instantly and 10% of toughness over 4 seconds on elite or specialist kill. So this is similar to a veteran Keystone or a veteran node that I've seen before. I forget what it's called, target neutralized or something. Oh wait, no, this is called target neutralized. What's it called on veteran, guys? Does anyone remember? This is pretty decent, but again, it's one of those things where, yes, you will get this toughness, but there is faster ways to regenerate toughness on the class. The only reason I would ever take this is if you were going for a ranged build, and you aren't going to have access to the other ways of regenerating that toughness. What I mean by that is like we're about to talk about 2 other talents in the same row here that give you a ton, a literal metric fuck ton of toughness, and this one barely gives you any toughness in comparison. You have to kill an elite or specialist for it to happen, and you only get 20% toughness out of it. So I think this one is lower than average. I think this is a C tier blessing. I just don't see it being all that crazy when compared to up close. And we are also have to kind of talk about the orientation or the arrangement, the way that I have to evaluate these things, right? When you have a talent like target neutralized that you can 100% bypass for free in order to take something else, now the comparison between these two becomes very important, right? Because if I need to get from no escape to man and cybermastiff, I have a choice, target neutralized or up close. And up close is insane. This is another S tier talent. Up close gives you 5% toughness on close kill. So close kills, I believe they changed that range back in, I don't know, like last year sometime. It's like 12.5 meters and under, right? What this means is that ranged kills at close range do this for you, which is nice because it's shotguns, synergy, obviously. But also, all of your melee kills are going to count for this. So when you have melee kills normally with any class in the game, you get 5% of your toughness back per melee kill. And this scales that. This doubles the toughness that you get back on your melee kills and adds the effect to range kills as well. So this is pretty much almost the exact same thing as a absolute S tier node on the veteran talent tree. Blood something. It's in the top right corner of the tree. That gives you 5% additional toughness on kill. This is just on close kill. And since so much of this class is melee focused, that's really big. Especially if you do like, this also counts grenades. This also counts remote detonation explosions. If you're within 12.5 meters of these targets that are dying, you get 5% of your toughness per kill, which is insane. So that's definitely S tier. And what else is also definitely S tier is Force of Will, replenishing 10% toughness on staggering melee attack. This is one of the best nodes in the whole tree. You should be using this on every single build. I'm convinced. I think that you should be using these two nodes on every single build if you're building it all for anything like meta or you care about winning. 10% toughness on a staggering attack. That means every single time you swing the weapon, if you can aim at heads or you're using a weapon that has any sort of stagger value to it at all, you are getting at least 10% toughness back. But let's look at the optimal or like the high roller scenario, which is very common. If you're using a sweeping attack and you hit, let's say, 3 poxwalkers and all 3 of them die, you are going to get 10% toughness from that attack staggering one of those enemies. You're also going to get 15% for the close kills and 15% for the kills. So you'll regain 40% of your toughness in one weapon swing if you kill 3 poxwalkers with a weapon swing, which is nuts. And this is one of the craziest single attack regenerations in the game. If you think about Ogren by comparison, who has absurd toughness regeneration as well, he regenerates 5% with every connecting melee attack, which does allow him to sustain against bosses better. Versus like captains and stuff, he can regenerate even when he's not staggering them. But since we can quote unquote stagger enemies when we hit them in the head, we can regenerate against bosses and stuff too. So yeah, this is a huge burst regeneration to your toughness on every single attack, and it's why the number one thing that you should be doing on Arbites if you are getting like taken out is just get in there and get meleeing. The more you stagger enemies, and this is what makes this class so stupid strong, staggered enemies take more damage, they deal less damage because they're not attacking you, and you are regenerating your toughness like crazy every time you're doing it. So yeah, absolute S tier, God tier perk, one of the best on the class, maybe only rivaled by one other that we'll get to in a second. All right, Retaliatory Force over here though. Gain 15% reduced block cost on perfect block, gain 15% damage and 10% attack speed for 8 seconds. So this is honestly pretty good. Block cost isn't bad, right? Reduced block cost is something you pick up on a curio. And this gives a huge steroid. And look at that duration too, 8 seconds. That's a juicy number there, right? You can do this reasonably once every 8 seconds. You don't have to be the best in the world at timing stuff. And remember that there are certain weapons, in fact, certain pretty dang good weapons within the Arbites arsenal that can block ranged attacks. So when you've got gunners shooting at you, if a gunner is shooting you and you just put up your shield at any given point and it hits you, well, that counts as a perfect block because you put it up when the attack was about to hit you, right? So now you've given yourself a pretty fucking huge steroid for 8 seconds. 15% damage is kind of, if this was like a balanced node, I would say that on perfect block gain 15% damage, but they added 10% attack speed to it, which I think raises it a whole tier. I think I'm going to put this thing at A tier, only because it does require you to play somewhat defensively, right? You have to be blocking instead of just being on offensive all the time in order to get this effect, which can require you to kind of rewire your brain. On a class as offensive, as purely offensive as the Arbites is, where your instinct is just to go, 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 stagger the fuck out of the enemy, beat them to death while they're on the ground, pausing for a second and letting them, like intentionally maybe even letting them swing at you so that you can get this buff is a little bit of like brain rewiring that you might have to do in order to get this effect. That's the only reason I'm dropping it from S to A. If it was any other like on trigger effect, like if it was just blocking an attack, blocking any attack rather than perfect block, S tier probably. But it's just not quite there because of that skill requirement. Shield plates on block replenish 15% toughness over 3 seconds. On perfect block, instantly replenish 10% toughness, 1 second cooldown. Geez. I just don't think this is... Again, we're talking about blocking here a second ago. I just don't think that... Because, like, think about this, right? When you're blocking an attack, you are not taking damage. Like, right? So you're not oftentimes going to be missing toughness when you're blocking. Hopefully that's the idea. Like, I would think I would block to prevent damage, not block once I have taken damage. When you have taken damage, your instinct should be to use your ultimate, aggress on those guys. Because remember, this is how we're generating toughness on this class, is killing enemies at close range and staggering them. So we should be just beating these enemies to death, not standing around and blocking them trying to get our toughness back. Now, this could be really nice if you're in like a real pinch and you've got like 15 snipers pinning you down and you just got your toughness broken, sure. But I think being in that situation, right, is a lot more rare than the other ways to regenerate toughness. And so I'm going to give this just kind of a B tier. I think it's mid. I think it's going to be okay if you're going for like a block focus build and you want to kind of just do like a block tank meme thing, but it is nothing compared to Walk It Off, which is insane. 1 stamina replenishes 15% toughness, 5% toughness per second for 3 seconds, which is crazy considering how many other regenerative effects there are in this tree. This is one of the easiest regeneration effects in the whole game. You can trigger it. Like, think about this, right? When you panic, when you get hurt and you take damage, what are your reactions, right? If you take damage to ranged, your immediate reaction should be sprint and slide. What does that take? Stamina. If you're taking melee damage, what is your immediate reaction? It should be push shove. It should be push and push stab and like get enemies away from you and start hitting them. And that also consumes stamina. So both of your instinct gut reactions that you already have to when you take damage are going to now trigger this effect that regenerates your toughness, which is exactly what I was talking about before, where this node right here and this node up here, they require you to rewire your brain and do something you wouldn't normally do in order to get a benefit. This just gives you benefits for fucking existing, just for running around and pushing and doing stuff that you always normally do. So this is absolute S tier, crazy regenerative node. Only rivaled in terms of regenerative effect by Man and Cybermastiff, which gives you 5% toughness per second while within 8 meters of your Cybermastiff. This is an amazing node as well. I don't think it's quite in that S tier ranking, only because the dog literally has a mind of its own, right? It just goes off and fucks off sometimes. You can get this to play closer to you if you take the no keystone down here, as we'll get to. If you take none of these keystones, the dog won't prioritize going and seeking out enemies nearly as much. So he'll hang out close to you a lot more of the time, so you'll have more of this regenerative effect. And this is a very, very strong regenerative effect. As I've said in my videos before, I think regenerative effects like these are some of the strongest defenses in the game, because like other defensive nodes like like this or this even, when you take damage, you have to then do something such as get a close kill or get a stagger in order to recuperate that toughness. This, that takes a second, right? Even if an enemy hits you, it's going to take you probably a quarter of a second to retaliate and get that toughness back. With this, within the first frame after you take that damage, you have started to regenerate part of that damage taken. And therefore, it's lowering the window in which you can take health damage, because as soon as your toughness is maxed, you can't take health damage from melee attacks. And these smooth regeneration effects also creep into gold toughness. So things like Walk It Off and Man and Cyber Mastiff, when paired with gold toughness generators, are just stupid. Anyone who's played Ogren with the taunt with regeneration, well, the taunt just has regeneration now, right? Anyone who's played Ogren with the taunt and had gold on their team knows you were just invincible while it's going on. Because as soon as you get chipped into blue, it regenerates and puts you back into gold. And as long as you're in gold, nothing except for one-shot attacks can break your toughness. It will only take you down to the top of blue. So this is a very, very good node. But because it is a little bit finicky, and because it relies on the positioning of the dog, I have to give it A, but it is still really, really good. If you want to go for a more defensive build, taking all these, and this one over here, doesn't hurt, right? It's only 1 extra point. It's not that bad. Okay, now we are on to the Blitz abilities. These are all roughly equal, right? I think the best one, if I had to give you my money, is this one right here. The toughness damage reduction. There's not a whole lot of toughness DR in this tree, so this is just going to be really good. Not to mention the fact that, you know, it's a nice crossover. It gives you the option to pick all 3 of these. So toughness DR, it'd probably be my choice there. But we got to talk about remote detonation. This Blitz ability, I mean, honestly, jeez. I kind of want to like differentiate between these in some sort of way, but these are all so crazy strong. This class has the 3, like, if we're considering all of them as a whole, these are the best 3 Blitz abilities in the game on a single class. They are so powerful. They all offer something very, very important, and they have a good amount of uses. And they have ways of regenerating them. Yeah, this is a really, really powerful set of Blitz abilities that this class has access to. I want to give... Okay, I'm going to give the Dog Detonation the A tier, optional S tier. This node... or this Blitz ability, it is A tier generally, without any tech or augmentation. And if they nerf bleed explosions, this is specifically what I'm talking about. But if you bring the bolter, if you bring the bolt gun, and you have puncture as your blessing, and suddenly your dog turns from dog explosion into bleed explosion, it jumps to S, because that is a multiplicative effect that just destroys hordes. And the fact that you can tech this in on any build that uses the dog just by bringing an S tier weapon is crazy. You can just be like, okay, I'll bring the bolter, one of the best weapons for the class. Don't threaten me with a good time. And then you suddenly get access to bleed explosions. Fuck yeah. So really, really good. Solid ability. The stagger is really nice. The only reason that we're bringing it down to A versus the other ones, which will both get S, as I'll show you here in a second, is because the dog's positioning is so goddamn finicky, right? He'll be in the wrong position at the wrong time, and he's normally so fucking responsive, but to me it feels like, okay, I need you to be right here, right now, little Fido, and that's when he's like, oh, I'm busy. Sorry, dude, I'm busy. What do you need? That's when it kind of annoys me, the repositioning needed. But let's go on and talk about the Shock Mine. Appropriate S for Shock Mine here. This thing is sincerely busted. I don't know if any of you have played with the Tactician build that I put up a couple days ago, or just generally anytime you can bring the Shock Mine plus the Douglas node and regenerate 1 Shock Mine every minute, it puts the game in Havoc on easy mode. You just turn into like the problem solver for your team. It just completely invalidates the difficulty of the mode, because this ability, this mine, is an anti-snowball tool, right? If you are in a situation, this happens a lot more in Havoc than any other difficulty, but it can work for any difficulty, right? If you're in a situation where you're down a man and you need to clutch a revive, or you need to get an objective, or you just need to survive what is like 3 bosses just spawned and you've got a horde and it's pouring down on you, this can cut off a huge amount of reinforcements. This can buy you a ton of fucking time, and it also groups up enemies so they can be absolutely destroyed by, like, I don't know, Ogren's grenade launcher or another Arbites using bleed explosions. This mine just puts the game on pause in the same way that like a psyker would. But remember, the psyker with smite has to stand there and channel his lightning fingers at a target for like a year in order to, you know, hold them there. And this just does it. Meanwhile, what are you free to do? Literally anything you want. You can go around and club enemies to death. You can pull out the bolter and blast the boss down. You can go rescue someone. The fact that you can smite like an area and do stuff is crazy. This thing is super, super broken. I don't know how they would nerf it, honestly. It just, like, if you have someone who knows the appropriate way to use this is like the thinking man's Blitz, right? If you have someone on your team who knows the appropriate time and place to use this in Havoc, you just win games. Okay, that's enough ranting about that one. All right, let's go on and talk about the last S. Hey, look, S. The impact grenade. The Arbites grenade. Awesome Blitz. Okay, first of all, this thing has 4 charges, but what I recommend is when you're using the dog, you should be using dog explosion, right? It's free grenades. It takes the burden off the team. When you're not using dog, when you're going Douglas, you should be using one of these, and therefore, when we assess the Arbites grenade, I want to assess it in that lens, that we are now having a cap of 5 of these fucking grenades, and we regenerate 1 every minute. And that is, like, that's something that I don't think players have that perspective on, which is that when you have one of these 2 abilities over here, you can not only regenerate them, but you can find them in the level and pick them up. So what skilled players will do is they'll just open up first encounter in the game by throwing all 5 of these grenades. And just like decimating whatever comes at you. You can chain throw these things at bosses, like, you know how normally, like, oh, you need to really time the chorus to push the boss off the ledge on the bridge or whatever. You have 5 of these fucking grenades. Just throw them in his face over and over and over again and shove him off the ledge. Like, these things have so much impact. You have so many of them. You regenerate them for free even if you don't find a pack. And if you do find a pack, like, sometimes I feel like there's so many grenades this season in Havoc. No one uses grenades anymore, right? Psychers don't use grenades. We've got the zealots that don't use grenades. If you've got another Arbites on your team who's using shock or the dog explosion, he doesn't use grenades, right? So no one's using grenades, which means those packs are yours and you get to use this. So before, when I said this is the thinking man's Blitz, this is the fucking Unga Bunga caveman's Blitz. You just hurl this thing at the biggest group of enemies you can see, and your damage numbers on the fucking charts are going to be through the roof, because this thing does stupid damage, has stupid AoE, and if you bring the if you bring the bolt pistol with it, you get 25% extra radius. Like, you know, you can just do a melee focus build and barely ever even really care about your ranged focus on this build, and then you can just run bolt pistol with an additional 25% explosive radius for your grenades. It's like a Grenadier veteran, but better than veteran. Okay. All right. Coming down here, we've got Arbitrator armor. Well, that's an S tier because you have to fucking pick it. Unless you really wanted to put all your points up here and then just stop picking stuff. But I guess S? I don't know. Good. 25 toughness. This class has so much fucking toughness, right? It's got like 200 base toughness once you've like spec'd through everything. It's crazy. This is Voltaic Mandibles, by the way. Voltaic Mandibles causes your Cyber Mastiff to electrocute enemies it attacks for 5 seconds. Now, call me crazy here. I think this is an S tier perk, honestly. I fucking love this thing. So this thing has so much synergy with what you want to be doing on Arbites and what the dog does, what that dog doing, and other buffs in the tree. If you don't know how this thing works, right? You know how when you hit enemies with the Arbites shock maul, and then you hit them again with the special, they stand there and they go, and they can't do anything for that entire time, and they're taking damage? That is what this does, and all the dog has to do is hit a target once. So if you got a bulwark that you're coming up on, and you're like, oh, I don't want to fucking deal with this guy, put the dog on him. He stuns him for you, and now the bulwark can't defend. And it also doubles the dog's DPS, even without the bottom keystone, and it paralyzes whatever that target was until they die. Because it lasts long enough that the dog can get the reset, that he can run around and get set up for another pounce and do it again. If you got a charger, you know those fucking times where like you're trying to get the res on your dumbass allies who are all down, and you've got this one bastard charger that just keeps going back and forth and grabbing you every time you're about to do it, like you're trying to pick up someone from the ledge, and it's just gonna continue trying to annoy you. You set the dog on him, he bounces off of him, and he stuns him for 5 full seconds with this, and then he'll reset and do it again before they get to attack. Works on every enemy in the game, except for bosses, gets a hard stun by this till they die. Crushers, bulwarks, reapers, all that. So crazy single, and it's a single dip, right? It's a single point perk, so crazy single point perk. Always take this if you have the dog. I don't think there's really any other argument about that. Ammo belt, 25% ammo capacity, you know, just 25% ammo capacity, right? I think this is just A, right? This class likes ammo. It is a very good ammo user. It has the bolter. It has all these shotguns. It makes very good use out of the ammo that it has, so giving it more ammo, pretty quality. That's an easy one. Okay, let's move on. Concussive. Oh my god. Our first D tier, guys. Holy shit, this thing fucking sucks. Oh my god, this guy stinks. Wait, what the fuck? Oh no, I wrote all over this. God damn it. I was trying to do it for a meme, guys. My bad. It's a fucking S tier perk. You know what it is. Hold on, we gotta delete this layer. I fucked up. Delete. There we go. Okay, we'll make another C tier layer. Bring this down. Retitle it to D. Make it red. Okay, yeah. This is not a D tier perk. It's an S tier. This is beyond S tier. Let's give it 2. Let's give it 2 S's. Let's give it 3 because SS sounds bad. There we go. This is great. This is a broken node on this class, right? This eclipses how broken this node is up here. This node single-handedly it unlocks so much potential for synergy with this class, and a class that ostensibly has low boss damage as its like foil to sort of the design of it, right? It can stagger every other enemy in the game, and it has lowish boss damage. But this means that you enable your allies to do crazy things, because the one fundamental weakness of like Ogren, I don't know if you guys have played Havoc since, with an Ogren and this class together, bosses fall to fucking pieces with this. Because if you can get a single hit on their head, and the Ogren has Skull Crusher on their club, their Mark III Bully Club, which they're all fucking running because it's the best weapon, the boss just dies. It's nuts. And it applies on, like, you know, the twins. Once you break their shield, they just die. And of course, we've got this aura here to talk about in a second. This is a crazy powerful perk. This, when I first took the first glance at the tree back on the 11th, I immediately pegged LOL as crazy powerful. Now, we just got through some of the, I mean, look at, first of all, take a moment. Look at this fucking tree. Right? Like, this is why this class is nuts. You could know nothing about this game, and if you just pick everything up here, look how many quality nodes you get, and all of these together do make a build. Like, you can make a very powerful build out of this stuff. So it's no joke how crazy this is. And this tree is complete ass. Canine Morale. Killing pounce targets grants allies in coherency 20% toughness damage reduction and 10% toughness over 5 seconds. This is another S tier node. This node is awesome. So remember that killing pounce targets applies to the dog as well. So when you are going this way, right, you have the dog by necessity. You cannot choose this if you are Douglas. So this means you have the dog. So we have to assume the dog can kill one target every 5 seconds, and therefore you and everyone in your coherency gets 20% toughness damage reduction. Think about the best aura on the Zealot, Benediction. It's 15% toughness damage reduction in coherency. This gives 20, and it gives you 2% toughness per second, which is like a piddly fuck amount, but hey, it's a regenerative effect, right? It's something, and it's just icing on the cake. It's 10% extra toughness over 5 seconds. It's icing on the cake. It could just be the first part, and this would probably still be an S tier perk. This is a huge damage resistance buff for you and the whole team, and it's super easy to get. And this is also super easy to get, and it's another massive DR buff. I mean, I feel like half this tree is going to be this. This is also another auto-include if you are taking the dog. Take this node. I like that I can kind of do this in like 2 ways, right? If you are taking the dog, you cannot take these nodes if you don't have the dog, right? So we don't even have to consider that opportunity. This node, whether or not you're taking the dog, is S tier. The only problem being you would have to come this way through the ammo to get it. But it's still really good. I mean, ammo is good in this class, but 25% damage resistance for 5 seconds after elite or specialist kill, this scales with the harder difficulty that you're on, obviously, right? Because there's more elites, there's more specialists, and we're pretty damn good at removing them, especially when you got the dog to do it for you. So if the dog gets one of those kills every 5 seconds, you get 25% damage resistance. Damage resistance is so fucking good in this game because it is not just toughness, it's your health as well. So this is something I tried to explain when I talked about how Ogren is like kind of power crept and like OP a while back, is because he has so much damage resistance compared to toughness damage resistance. Even when your toughness is like partially broken, say you have 50% toughness, right? And the attack that's incoming would do 100 damage. Well, if you have 50% toughness, you would take 25% less on that remaining toughness, and the damage that bleeds over into your health would be reduced by 25%. So you get a double dip on the reduction in damage that you take when you have flat damage resistance like this. So it's really solid, and this is just a great node, and it's not in a terribly inconvenient spot. Pretty good. Suppression Force. Staggering an enemy makes them deal minus 20% damage. Last 5 seconds. I guess C. I could see a situation in which this is useful, but I don't think you should ever take it. If you're going like full support and you really want to role play that, like, guys, I'm the support, I'm going to debuff the boss for you so that he can't hurt you at all, then you could choose Suppression Force. It's usable, right? It does something, but here's the thing. When you stagger an enemy, what are the odds that that enemy is going to live to see its next attack? If you're playing your Arbites appropriately, it's 0, right? The only enemy type that this could be applicable to is bosses. Bosses are the only enemies that can survive the stagger potential and then actually deal damage out the back of that. So I will say that it is usable, but I don't think it's at all a wise expenditure of your point, considering what else we can see in the tree. Generally, effects that nerf enemies' damage to you are pretty bad. Damage resistance effects are good because they are general. They apply to all sources of damage and stuff like that. But nerfing specific enemies' damage to you almost really never has a payoff. So that is why I would prefer that we slot into some stuff that either gives us damage resistance or preferably just kills these enemies outright. Over here we got Suppression Protocols. Hitting 3 or more enemies with an attack grants you 20% toughness DR for 5 seconds. Man, do I want to give us another S tier? I kind of feel like a little bit less crazy about this one. No, I think the only reason I'm not giving it an S is because my brain is saying this is too many S's. So I'm going to give it another S. I'm just going to give it another S. Right, like 20% TDR, especially on this class. Like, fucking psychers out here, man. They have like 15% toughness damage reduction in their whole goddamn tree. And they have to, like, be about to explode from peril in order to have that much TDR. This class can get 20% TDR here. Like, right, you can feasibly have all of these so very easily. If you're running a dog build with like, you know, melee focus, you can have the dog attack someone and kill them so that you get 20% toughness damage reduction. You can have, and then you'll also get 25% generic damage reduction if that target was an elite or a specialist. Meanwhile, you can be cleaving the horde and you happen to hit 3 enemies and you are granted 5 seconds of 20% more toughness damage reduction. So between these 3 nodes, you have a cumulative 65% toughness damage reduction and 25% generic damage reduction, or like something like that. It's stupid. Like this and this, remember, this is compounding. Any damage reduction you get compounds with regenerative effects, because every time we regenerate 10% toughness or 1% toughness or whatever, it gets infinitely harder for the enemies to remove it in the effective time. And this isn't even considering if we have damage resistance on our curios and stuff like that. This is why I take Gunner DR on this class, is because those are some of the only enemies that have a high enough DPS to actually like DPS check us and break this toughness, until you get to Havoc where they just don't give a fuck. But even then, it's still pretty good. So yeah, this amount of TDR stacking, especially in this row, because they are so accessible, is crazy. Okay, we gotta talk about auras here. Part of the squad, an additional 7.5% toughness damage reduction for everyone in coherency, and your Cybermastiff unit counts towards unit coherency. B tier, right? I'm not gonna, it's not that interesting. This is a solid enough 7.5% TDR for everybody. You can't be mad about that, right? It's fine. Like, it doesn't hurt, right? And you get the dog to count as incoherency. Now remember, like, when it's just you and the dog, it's not going to be anywhere near as good as Loner's regeneration when you're alone as Loner, because Zealot also has some additional nodes in the tree that can buff the base regeneration speed of his coherency, which I wouldn't recommend taking outside of like Rat King build or something. But this regenerative effect is like 2 toughness per second, like literally 2. So it's not that good. In coherency, when you have multiple dogs and you have 6 coherency, this honestly does make you like regenerate kind of fast, but I don't think it's like anything special. I'm not like, oh, dude, bring the dog aura. Yeah, hell yeah, man. Even less so am I ever like, bring this aura. This is a D tier aura. I don't understand how this one fucking passed muster to get it into the game. Because like anything else is more usable. And here's the thing. There is no pathing that you take here that is going to give you... There's only one way that you could build that would force you to take this aura. The only way you could be forced into taking this aura, by the way, which is 7.5% additional reload speed, is if you are running a dogless build and you come down the middle. If you're going like a ranged dogless build, which you are a wild man for doing, right? You come down the middle, you only get ammo belt, and then you go imposing force, and then you go here instead of going to part of the squad. This is like the only way that you would take Ruthless Efficiency. This one seems so undertuned to me. Does anyone else feel that way? Like, I feel like this should be at least 10%, if not more. I just don't feel 7.5%. Like, that's less than a perk on your gun. The perk on the gun is 10%, which is bad. And this isn't a unique buff either. Yeah, I feel like it should be higher than 7.5. 15, it would be good. Like, it would actually be good at 15. I would actually legitimately, maybe I would take it over this. If this was, I would rank it A tier if it was 15. Over here, Breaking Descent though is S. I mean, this is another cracked node. Scales you damage. Scales everyone on your team damage. Ogryns will beg you to bring this in their game. It's like, please, sir, bring this stagger aura, sir.
Me needs it, Grok needs it for his damage outputs.
This is a broken aura. Maybe one of the best in the game currently. You know, it's up there with our 10% CDR. It's up there with our ammo regen aura, which is probably going to be nerfed 15 more times. This is a awesome node because we are the stagger enabler, right? And there's other classes that can stagger the fuck out of enemies too. This does not say, by the way, this does not say you and allies in coherency deal an additional 10% melee damage versus staggered. This says you and allies deal an additional 10% damage versus staggered. Rumbler, guys? Rumbler, anyone? 10% additional damage on Rumbler shots? Thank you, Mike Hunt. Talking about Mike Hunt in the middle of my tier list is not something that was on my bingo card for today, but this will make it into the cut of the video. So, guys, Mike Hunt, S tier chatter, S tier thing to say during a tier list video.
Diabolical. Fucking diabolical name.
Alright, so yeah, Breaking Descent, S tier. You should be going out of your way to get this. We'll work on some more Ogren voice acting in here somewhere. Okay, another 25 toughness down here. Oh, we're going on to our second part. Oh my god, guys. How many? I've been here an hour, and I made it through this much. You gotta hear. This is like, you know, it's like you've beat the first phase of the boss, and you're like, whew, oh my god, this guy was tough. And then you're like, wait, why is his health bar not refilling? Or not disappearing? Oh, fuck. You versus the guy that she tells you not to worry about, right? So, holy fuck, let's settle in, guys. We gotta put our big boy pants on here. We're gonna fucking rock this second half, or I'm gonna be here for... I probably am gonna be here for 3 hours, but hey. Let's get it going. Okay. Jesus. This, by the way, first of all, I fucking love this talent tree. I love this class, okay? I'll complain about things being overtuned or whatever in the game, but this is what I fucking live for. There are so many ways to build this class. It is so good. It feels good to play different ways. The limitations and the options that we have on weapons in both like the same vein, right? Having no dueling sword and having these like clubs and like interesting weapons to play with, that is the stuff. And it gives me great hope for what comes in the future for Darktide, because Fat Shark seems to have like figured their shit out in terms of these trees. Ogren was S tier, and this is like S plus tier. Oh yeah, and then Tamba making a good observation here. You don't have to take any of these. So let's talk about the dog keystones, guys. These, by the way, are called dogments. They are not dog keystones, they're called dogments. It's official. Putting it down right now. Unleash Brutality. Your Cybermastiff prioritizes elite and specialist enemies and deals plus 25% damage to them. I am going to rank this. I need to make all these bigger. Can I make them bigger without... paragraph? Nope. Font? Alright, here we go. 50. Enter. Hell yeah. Alright, maybe even a little bigger than that. 60? Okay, there we go. That's juicy. Alright, those are big enough. Those are big enough for me, a size queen. Okay. This node, I want to rank this as an A tier node. The reasoning being... I don't know. Am I just not trying to put... Am I just fundamentally not trying to put S tier nodes on here because I feel like I've done too many S tier nodes? I think that's what it is. If I'm being honest with myself, guys, fuck. This is an S tier node, okay? And so is this, and so is this. Okay, this is okay, this is the reality of it. I'm holding myself back from it. All of these are fucking incredible in their own veins, and they are very useful. What I'll say, here's what I'll do. What I'll say is that you can have A tier for none of them. Yeah, there we go. For none of them, that is A tier. if you choose none of them. It's still a good option to save the point and to keep the dog's AI passive, to keep it near you, and then direct it only to the targets you need it to go on. It will still do things, but it won't be like going out of its way to attack these targets. But it isn't as strong as these other ones. Now, I'm seeing Smart Rock in the chat saying he's surprised to see this is also S. We'll get to that, but let's talk about this one first. This node, what's it called? Unleash Brutality has amazing synergy with the class as a whole. I can't control F here, but there is. Let's see, how many nodes do you guys think there are that are procced when you kill or damage an elite or specialist enemy? I think it's like 4. We've got 1, 2, 3. Oh shit, it's more than 4. Where there's one down here, and there's somewhere. Oh yeah, 4. Okay, 4, and then we've got. Where is it? Okay, no, these are okay. Oh, well, okay. This whole Keystone kind of technically counts as a bunch more because remember, this Keystone only marks elites and specialists. So the synergy between Unleash Brutality and Execution Order, which is the best dog Keystone, is insane because the dog is going to be prioritizing these targets that are marked in blue and giving you these buffs. So it's like 4 plus another 3 or 4 in there. So this is a great way to get the dog to contribute and give you a bunch of buffs because he's going to be targeting down the targets that you get a ton of buffs from killing. So that is S tier for certain. A great way to make the dog be useful. He will automatically go after bulwarks and ragers and stuff that are threatening you. Once you get more skill, right? Once you get more skill at playing as the Arbites, especially if you get the unfortunately named dog whistle mod, you can use it to very quickly tag the targets you want him to go on instead of like having his automatic AI do it. And at that point, if you get really good at micromanaging your dog, then you don't need this because you can just tell him which elites to go and target if you're really like on it. And it only gives you a little bit extra damage. Then you can save the point. But until that point, you know, it's pretty good. Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf is another triple S, I think, honestly. I'm going to give this the triple S because, again, the SS is problematic. This triple S Lone Wolf here, this, as Candones, another content creator for the game, says is a 5-in-1 talent. You get 5 talents for this, right? You get 15% TDR. You get 10% attack speed, which is insane. You get 10% damage. You get an additional charge on your Blitz ability, and you replenish a charge of your Blitz every 60 seconds. So, you know how people say that this class is like eating veterans' lunch? This node right here is like half of the veteran's fucking talent tree. It's so funny. Like 15% toughness damage reduction is like a single talent node on one of veterans' things. There is a literal 10% attack speed node. 10% damage is like twice a minor node. I don't think there's any ones that are specifically 10% damage, but hey, we'll take it. And then there are specific talents that are +1 increased charge on your Blitz ability that's in a terrible position on veteran. And what's it called at this point? Fuck, I can't even remember any veteran talents anymore because that class is so washed. The one that gives you a grenade every 60 seconds. Tactical, like resupply or whatever it is. Yeah, the one that's right above shout that everyone takes. So like this is like 5 talents in one, and all you do to get it is lose the dog. Now the dog is really good, but specifically on here, there's 3 things that are crazy. Demo stockpile, that's right. Demolition stockpile and demolition team is the one for 5% regeneration. So this makes your melee builds go fucking crazy as hell because of that attack speed. The attack speed is the operative thing here for the offensive, for the personal stats. Because we already have 10% attack speed from up at the top of the tree, and there's more down here. And then the additional charges and the cooldown is nuts. Again, like I said earlier, this plus Shock Mine just wins Havoc games if you've got a brain, and if you don't got a brain, then this plus Arbites grenades wins Havoc grenades, or wins Havoc grenades, wins Havoc games, because you can just pelt the enemies with these repeatedly, and you don't even have to ever worry about running out in a pinch. Like, the longer the combat encounters last, the longer you spend fighting, the more grenades you regenerate, right? So, yeah, really, 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 really strong talent in the tree, and somehow they made it worth giving up the dog. For if you're going a specifically melee focused build and you want to be the thing, the center of the damage, then this is about as good as you could hope for. Go Get 'em is also S tier. The Keystone here, the value of this is that on Havoc difficulty, the most annoying and dangerous enemies are gunners. And the really problematic thing, the thing that will kill you, in my experience, more often than anything else on Havoc, is when you enter into a room or you're adjacent to a room and you have to push through it or something, and the gunners have been alerted ahead of time. When you have a good tempo in a game, this is why tempo is really important in Darktide, right? You bust into the room, and the enemies are all standing around in their kind of like loitering positions, right? They're doing the patrols and stuff, and you just run up on them, and you suppress them, and you stagger them, and you completely rout their position, and you kill them. But there are instances where you like come up on an enemy, sort of a room that's occupied by enemies, and they're alerted, and then they get into their positions, and then bosses come in and force you back, and then when you have to re-engage and get into this room, these enemies will tear you apart. And the dog with this buff deals with so much of that problem for you. Because of that 50% additional damage, he goes and almost instantly kills pretty much every small gunner. He'll just pounce on them, and that's an instant kill, because a pounce does like 260 damage, and so this buffs it to like 390, and I think those guys have 400 HP, or maybe they have 350. So it like instantly kills small scab gunners, and then larger scab gunners die in very quick order too. So those dangerous enemies are removed. The only downside of this is it makes the dog play very, very far away from you, so if you do need to call him in to do anything, it's a little bit longer of a wait, but I think it's very, very good, and it can make you not have to worry about bullets sliding around everywhere, because the dog is passively cleaning up so many more of these threats. And the only other downside is that he's going to spend less time targeting elites and specialists unless there's a lot of gunners around. He'll be spending more time targeting the scab shooters. But it's definitely still S tier because of the just sheer amount of enemies that the dog will kill with this one. You're going to kill a lot less enemies than Unleash Brutality, but they're more value. This one's going to kill way more enemies, but they're lower value, until you have one of those cascading effects. Abilities. Oh boy, abilities. Okay. We should vote now. Do I talk about Nuncio Aquila in the sense... Yeah, you can ping something near you. Just ping something near you to call the dog in. Should we talk about the Nuncio Aquila in terms of its current bugged state? Or should we talk about it in the ostensibly what it's supposed to give? Because if you didn't know, the Nuncio Aquila is supposed to give an additional, with this node right here, 30% toughness damage reduction. But this actually is in the code as a 0.3x multiplier on your toughness damage. So what it actually does is it reduces the damage you take to your toughness by 70%. So this is the way it works right now as of July 1st, 2025, and it hasn't been patched yet, but yeah, it makes you crazy tanky because it just completely nullifies the amount of toughness damage reduction toughness damage that you take, and it's regenerating toughness at the same time. So, and it obviously applies it to everyone in the area. So this is, I think, on its base, right? What I'm going to say about the base effect here is B tier. You know, it's a good ability. It's fine. I think it's completely overshadowed by the other two options, personally. I think that the other two options on this class are fucking nutty by comparison. But if we look at just the base effects of this, there's nothing here that I'm crazy about. A radius where you replenish 7.5% toughness per second, that's okay. 30% suppression dealt, that's not really an effect that people generally care about. 30% impact, again, there's so much fucking impact in this game. It's not generally that powerful. Suppression immune, slowdown immune, okay, that's pretty decent. And the reduction in recoil does allow you to spray down on enemies with like bolter and stuff pretty well. And then the enemies taking extra damage. This is like a minor version of Skull Crusher, right? It doesn't make you do more damage. It makes the enemies take more damage. So that's a good effect. So I'll give it a B tier. I think it's solid. My downsides to this ability are I hate the deployment time. I hate the fact that it is stuck where it is. I'll give you my kind of like thoughts on how we should change this ability kind of briefly, but the fact that if you want to play with this, if you are moving forward and pushing into the enemy team and you can hold it down and throw it out, right? But it moves so slowly. And the animation, as Snappo just said in the YouTube comments, it moves so slowly, and the animation to throw it is so long that you can inadvertently cancel it, or you'll throw it and you'll get there and you'll start fighting enemies before it even deploys and starts doing its shit. It takes way too fucking long to start doing its effect, and so most of the time when I use it, I just tap it. I just tap the button and I put it down at my feet. Even if I know that this isn't really the optimal place to put it down, I'd rather have it down than wait 3 seconds, 5 seconds for it to go and deploy itself. Now, let's talk about this side, and then we'll talk about the other side that I think is actually bad. This side, Inspiring Recitation, currently, and actually even if it's fixed, is S. Because Inspiring Recitation gives you 30% toughness damage reduction in actuality. No one tell Fat Shark. Because I know they don't play their own game. But this is actually 70% toughness damage reduction. Okay, this is fucking crazy broken. 30% revive speed on top of that is icing on the cake, and 10% attack speed is making that icing into cream cheese frosting, okay, which is the empirically the best type of icing. So 30% revive speed is nuts. You stack this with revive speed on your curios, and you are pushing some insane revives. Remember, you're a support with this on the team, and you pick your allies back up, and they've now got full toughness again. They've got toughness damage reduction going on. They're regenerating. It's very easy to get revives with this thing, and this is not only a good offensive node because of that additional attack speed, but it's also a really good defensive node. Over here on the other side, we have Fear of Justice. I think this sucks. Personally, oh man, do I want to give this a D? I feel like if I give this a D, listen, here's what I'm doing. All right, I'm throwing the gauntlet down, okay? Data miners or whatever the fuck. People that know more about this game than I do. There are people out there, right? They're just not as loud, and so I override them with my boisterousness and my presence in the space. But if you know more about this than I do, and you want to prove me wrong, please prove me wrong in the comments. But here's my experience with Fear of Justice, okay? It makes enemies that are in the zone have an increase in time between their melee attacks. So what this means is not that every melee attack is now slower. The melee attacks come out just as quick. The Crusher, sideswipe, or kick, or overhead will still come out in the exact same speed. So you still have to dodge faster, or at the same speed as before. They're not like moving in slow motion. It's just that the time between them is increased. And additionally, there are combo attacks in this game. A really simple one to point to is the Rager. If the Rager comes at you in a zone, you would be like, oh, he's going to be so easy to deal with. He's going to hit me one time. He's going to pause for twice as long in order to throw that second attack. I don't have to worry about him at all. Joke's on you. The Rager's flurry of blows where he goes left, right, left, right, left, right, that is all counted as one attack. So yes, there will be a bigger cooldown before he does it again, but he can do that flurry of blows, and so can the captain, with a sword captain who does the Omni Slash and murderizes your ass when you're not paying attention. That is still counted as a flurry of blows that is all one attack. So it doesn't affect that much. And their melee attacks deal 25% less damage. So first of all, the reason I don't like these reduce the damage the enemies deal effects is because your job as a player is to dodge enemy damage. You can dodge or block all enemy damage in this game. So reducing the enemy's damage in specific times, I just don't think is that useful. Like, how often are you getting hit by a boss's melee attack that's actually doing any considerable damage? And then, especially if the damage is like, you know, spaced out by 50% more. And okay, so that's talking about the problems with just the actual active effect that's going on here. The bigger problem is that this has zero effect on enemies that are outside of the radius. And it has zero effect on ranged enemies. So there can be a shotgunner or 10 shotgunners that are standing within the radius of this thing. And you know when you get gunners and reapers that are just like, you know, my programming tells me I'm supposed to put my gun down and run or something, but I would rather stand 5 feet away from you and just shoot you point blank and murder you to death. That is not foiled by this. That has no effect on this. So there can be a reaper that's standing inside the circle, and he has full damage, and he has full attack speed. So it only has effect on melee stuff. And I think melee threats in this game are the least scary thing imaginable. I can't think of a single enemy that is melee focused that I am actually scared of even one bit, let alone on this class of all classes, right? This class is a fucking joke when it comes to enemies trying to melee you. What guys, what do we say when a crusher tries to overhead us on the Arbites? We don't say anything. We murder him with literally 2 hits with the Arbites shock maul. Okay, and then we say not today and spit on his corpse. Like, it's just fundamentally melee is not the threat for this class or for really any class. So I think this is worthless. I think that what they should do with this node right here is they should remove this, and they should put in the ability to make the Nuncio move with you. They should reduce, this node right here should reduce the aura of the Nuncio, maybe by like 25%, the radius, and it should move with you. It should be bound to your head so that you can move and offer that buff wherever you go, which would make a lot of fucking sense that it hovers with you. That would be cool. It would be thematic. You would be literally bringing the Lex to the enemies as you roll in on them. Hell, they can make it no aura reduction, because something that's unique about the Arbites talent tree, by the way, is there's no exclusivity. There's no downside to taking any of their nodes, right? You notice here on other classes, when you take their nodes, it's like, okay, you want to take this Keystone, you can't take this one, and it like takes something away. This class, all of its Keystone nodes and all of its augments just give you more and more stuff, which is one of the reasons it's so powerful. So just make it roam. Like, spend an extra point just to float with you. I'm for it, right? Reduces range damage by 35%. Yeah, something like that. I mean, it could honestly, with just the roaming effect would be enough for me, because I think that's my major problem with this, is that you put it down. It's the same problem with Psyker Bubble, right? You put it down in one spot, and then you can't control the battlefield 100% of the time. The enemies make you move, and now your bubble's useless. Now your Nuncio's useless. The Nuncio has a little bit less problem with that, because you can't be burst or anything, but anyway. Okay, so going on from that, there's our rankings there. SBD, suck by dick. I don't know why I said that. Castigator's stance. Oh my god. Oh, fucking hell. Dude, Castigator's stance is broken. This is getting nerfed. It's gotta be getting nerfed. Like, what the fuck is this? Okay, Castigator stance, guys. Enter Castigator stance for 10 seconds, during which time you have 15% movement speed, 80% reduced damage taken, 100% reduced movement speed penalty from actions, but you cannot sprint. Base cooldown 45 seconds. Dude, first of all, the noise that plays when you activate this ability alone, fucking S tier, right? Let me know. Everyone agrees with me, right? You activate that thing, and you're like, it might as well be playing like the Giga Chad music. You know, the one that's like doom, doom, like that one where it's showing the Giga Chad like image. I'll like edit it in here and post. That's how you feel when you activate this thing, because it's just got this, and now you start fucking gliding. You're just aura walking, just straight forward. Just don't even give a fuck about anything that's shooting you. 80% TDR is nuts. It's not TDR, it's DR. It's damage reduction. Oh, sorry, no, it's not even damage reduction. Fuck. It's reduced damage taken. So, this is actually a multiplier on top of everything else. So all of your other damage reductions and stuff, and then you cut that damage, you multiply it by 0.2. So your damage taken is fucking nothing. I don't know if you guys have like walked into a room of like Havoc Gunners with this thing. You would think that like, you know, even the tankiest classes in the world can walk into a room of Gunners on Havoc. Like, have you ever been chorusing as a Zealot and been like,
Ha! I'm the chorus zealot. No one can hurt me. I stand strong for the Emperor.
and then like 3 Gunners just laser focus you and they burn your health down through the chorus and you're like, never mind. I'm bullet sliding away. This is so much stronger than that. Because you walk out there and you watch your health bar, your toughness bar, and it's like just struggling to get depleted. This is such a strong toughness damage reduction. And the movement penalties aren't that bad. Oh, by the way, it doesn't say it here, but this replenishes your toughness to full instantly. So basically what you do is you play the game like normal, just being a really, really fucking powerful, unstoppable juggernaut class, and you're keeping your toughness up just fine without this ability, and then something stupid happens. You know, you see a burster that's about to dive into you, activate Castigator stance. And suddenly you are invincible for 10 fucking seconds. You get the Super Mario star. And when you activate this, I don't know if you guys have noticed, my favorite thing to do with this ability is activate it and I go and jump on a burster. Especially if there's like more than one, you can go and jump on a burster. They can only deal damage to, like, they'll do like 1 corruption damage to your HP when you have this active. You just jump straight on top of the burster and it'll like shoot you up in the air like crazy. It's very, very fun. You can face tank anything with this, and the movement speed penalty isn't that bad because there's so many movement stacking things on this class. Remember that this class, when it has depleted stamina, only has a 0.5x sprint modifier. So you go from moving at 5.2 to 4.6 because your base movement speed is 4, right? So when you activate this and you get your 15% movement speed, you are moving at 4.6. So you are moving at depleted sprint stamina speed, or depleted stamina sprint speed, just by base movement speed, just walking. And you can still dodge, slide, backslide, side slide. You just can't slide forward, except for you can run forward and slide and then activate it to get extra distance. So absolute crazy nutty S tier. Let's go over here and talk about the Writ of Execution. During Castigator stance, each elite or specialist kill grants 5% damage lasting 10 seconds, 10 max stacks. I think this is A tier. My only problem with this is by the time you've accrued any significant amount of damage off of this, I don't really think that you are getting the effect out of it. Like, yes, you can kill like 4 elites in the first like maybe 4 or 5 seconds of the activation, but then you've only got a couple seconds left to really make that count, and I just don't think it's worth the node. I think that for specific builds, right, if you're doing bolter shenaniganery and you're just like pointing at you activate Castigators and you point at a horde of gunners and shotgunners and just unleash full auto and mow them all down, yes, because then the damage stacks up very, very quickly. But if you're going melee focus with this, you're no way are you killing anything. Yeah, as Groovy in the chat again says, making good points, making my video for me, it's not worth on this ability specifically to spend any extra points unless you are specifically doing gun shenaniganery. So if you're doing some shotgun stuff, if you're doing some bolter stuff, then take this node and then take the further node out here, which I will say that this is, I don't know if it's S. I don't think it's S. I'll go to A. I think it's an A. But only for range stuff. But what is D tier is this shit right here. Fuck this thing. This is so stupid. I think they ran out of ideas for Bloodlust, personally. Anyone else get that feeling? I think they didn't know what to put here. During Castigator stance, your Cybermastiff has 75% damage. What? Like, this ability has a 10-second uptime, and it has, at base, a 45-second cooldown? That's like no extra damage, and if you want to be buffing your dog, this is not the route to do it, guys. There's a node like right over right here that does the same thing, but like it gives you way more operative damage. Let's do some like back of the napkin math right now. Let's assume that we have the maximum amount of cooldown reduction, right? That without choosing execution order, of course. Let's assume that we have maximum amount of CDR. So we have a 45-second cooldown. That's reduced by I think 4, or like it's reduced by like 5 or 6 seconds by our curios. So we have 39 seconds. So let's say it's a 25% uptime on Castigator's stance, and therefore we get 25% of this 75% damage increase to the dogger. So that is what? 30 or 16-ish percent? Am I mathing? 17%, right? 17.5%, right? Okay, coming over this side. Well, here, let's finish this up real quick. These are fine, right? This A tier, this replenishing the ammo thing for Blessed Armament replenishes 10% ammo. The limiting factor for this is that 1.5 second cooldown. If they remove that 1.5 second cooldown, this would not only be an S tier perk, but I would use it all the time because that would be so fucking awesome if they removed this or lowered it at least. I wish it was lower. I wish it was lower. Okay, coming over here. Break the line. Break the line is a crazy, Jesus, I have to do this. This is another triple S tier. Like, come on. This is an insane ability. I can't believe I saw people on the forums before this class was released saying that this thing was like, oh, it doesn't even do any damage. All it does is stagger. How is that going to be good in Darktide? What the fuck? Have you played Darktide, dude? Imagine. Did you play Vermintide 2? Do you know who's like one of the best classes in the game? It's fucking Foot Knight Kruber. Because of staggering and knocking everything down in front of you on a short cooldown is fucking bonkers broken. Duh. And not only that, but we get 6 seconds of a fucking massive 25% damage and 50% impact buff. So we got Kruber charge with power creep on it. So this is your melee, like this is the turn off your brain and walk through the enemies and clobber everything to death, right? This is when I published the I am adamant build. That's what Castigator stance is, right? It's just walking through enemies, and then enemies walk up to you, and you just like slap them with the side of your shield and say, "Get out of my way, peasant! I'm going to the end of the level and winning." This is the one for true zealots, okay? If you're bored with playing zealot, you just come over to the Arbites and you play this. So this makes you do more damage, it stuns everything in front of you, and wouldn't you know it, this class tends to capitalize really fucking well on enemies that are staggered. So we love Break the Line. And, okay, now we gotta talk about Kill Order. So Kill Order gives you 50% damage for your Cyber Mastiff for 12 seconds after using your combat ability. Remember that over here, this is a roughly 17% increase to your dog's damage. This is a 50% increase for 12 seconds. Well, wouldn't you know that if you take all of your cooldown reduction on the curios, and you take targeted brutality, it lowers the cooldown of your charge, provided you get a solid enough charge on like I think it's at least 3 elites or something like that, 2 elites. You get a 12-second cooldown. So now this is a 100% uptime, and therefore it's a 50% damage increase. It's triple the damage increase on average over this one, and because it is almost always up, it's so much more useful, right? Because what are the odds that the dog is actually on something valuable when you're using Bloodlust, when you're activating Castigator stance, and you're like, oh, I need the dog to pop off right now. This is just the dog is popping off 2/3 as much all the time. And yeah, it's pretty damn good. So this one, provided you are going dog stuff, if you got a dog, this is S tier, right? This is also S tier. Jesus fucking dude, I should have just made like the whole thing, like I should have made like 5 different versions of S's. It would have been easier. It'd be easier to not rank the things that are S at this point. Dog stuff is against the legs. Commendation from condemnation here. Replenish 20% toughness and 15% stamina for each elite specialist or monstrosity hit up to 100% toughness and 75% stamina. That because, guys, this class didn't have enough toughness damage reduction. I was getting scared personally between this node here and 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 this, not that node, and this node here and that's it, right? Okay, I was getting scared. My toughness was getting a little bit low, so I'm glad I have commendation from condemnation to put it back to 100% instantly for no fucking reason and replenish all my stamina so I can start shoving a bunch again. So this is really, really synergistic with a ton of weapons, right? This class has really, really high stamina regeneration. It has Psyker. So the thing that people don't appreciate about certain classes is classes have different, let me show you right here. Classes have different stamina regeneration delays, right? So the Psyker shares this stamina regeneration delay with this class at 0.5 seconds. Other classes have longer delays and then have larger stamina regeneration per second, but this is actually a very optimal stamina regeneration delay for much melee gameplay, right? Because the shorter that stamina regeneration delay is, the more often you can buffer a little sprint out or throw a push stab. So you can sprint slide. If you've ever seen the Psychers, they can sprint and then use the dueling sword and lunge forward, and they can regenerate stamina while they're doing that, so they can infinitely move tech forward. Similar things apply to this class. So yeah, that stamina regeneration delay is super low, which means that, yeah, we can regenerate a good amount of stamina, and then you can just waste all your stamina by shoving stuff, blocking stuff, and then get it all back from this as well. So really, really strong here. And also really, really strong here, Targeted Brutality, reducing the cooldown by up to 5 seconds. I'm going to give this one A tier, though. I do tend to take it on a good number of my builds, but I find it extraneous, honestly. I find it a little bit extraneous because of the fact that we already have like a 17-second cooldown without that. How much is 5 extra seconds on this ultimate? That's up, honestly, I think it's up enough, right? You could have a little bit more uptime in the damage, but I feel like it's up enough that I could save that node and put it elsewhere, because there are really good nodes at the bottom of the tree that that you will want. We also have, what's this one called? Engage. Break the line, increasing its distance to 7.5 meters. Ooh, man. This one is also solid, but not necessary. That's what I'll say is A tier, right? Very solid, but not necessary. It does make you feel a lot more like the Zealot, being able to engage, because remember, you not only have that charge distance, but once you reach the end, you get that big frontal cone that blasts out in front of you. I'm not saying by any means that either of these are bad, by the way. They are very good if you are going into a build with a more narrow focus, but especially for me recently, I have realized the value of some of these nodes at the bottom of the tree just cannot be replaced. That they're so high that I'll sacrifice the range. I'll sacrifice the cooldown in order to have more of this stuff at the bottom of the tree. And that's sort of where I stand on putting these at A. But they're still really, really good, obviously. Okay. We're coming down. We're in the home stretch now, guys. The last 3 Keystone pillars. Which order should I do these in? What do you guys think? First person to respond. Should I go right to left, left to right, middle first? Rest my voice. Drink some Mountain Dew while I'm waiting. Up to down. Oh, like this? Fuck that. I gotta talk about them. S tree for sure. Yeah, S tree for sure, Maudite. It's really good. I'm seeing a lot of left to right. Okay, left to right. True American.
We're reading it like this is English. This ain't no Japanese manga. Okay? This here talent tree was written in English. God's language, not no kanji.
I like the idea of like the ignorant redneck yokel that's like dismissive of the Japanese language, but is like overly knowledgeable about their culture and stuff. Something's funny about that there. Okay, coming over here on the left, we got Arbites Revelatum. We're coming down this left tree. 15% damage for 5 seconds after successful dodge. I mean, first of all, auto include, right? This is an auto include. It's right at the top of the tree. It's literally kanji. It's kanji. I don't think it's right. It's right at the top of the tree. Wherever you are, it's like one extra node. You are taking these nodes. So why do we even need to discuss it? It's one of the most active damage buffs that you could possibly have, just dodging all the time. And here's the thing. There are so many damage buff nodes in this bottom part of the tree. I'm pretty certain if you tallied up the amount of the damage buff that's in the bottom part of the tree here for any given build, it's like on the order of 120%. It's nuts. So this is S tier. And then we're going to follow that up with talking about this little range node over here. Judicious Efficiency. 20% reload speed on next reload after elite kill or specialist kill. I think this is like B tier at best. It's very specialized. You need a weapon that is that has a very long reload, right? That you are focusing on. It needs to be a a ranged focus build. And that would be the only way that this would be useful, but I just don't think it's generally advisable to spend this point unless you're going for a ranged focus build. And even then, ranged focus builds that use the bolter, 20% reload speed isn't like anything to write home about. I think there's better things to take for your points when you're doing that. So I'll give it a B tier. It's fine, but it's okay. Rapid movement. Sliding increases sprint speed for 5 seconds, kills restore 5% stamina, 0.75 second cooldown. I might get like lit up in the comments or something. Again, like there's people that know more about this game than me. I don't think this is like good. I don't understand taking this. Sprint speed is great, but we already have so much movement speed in this tree from various things, and I don't find myself needing to sprint that much on this class, right? This class, wait, Castigator stance, you can't even fucking sprint with this. And with this ability, we are right there in enemies' faces. This is something I wanted to mention about Engage, by the way. The reason that Engage is only A tier is because when you are meleeing enemies and you've got your face in their face, you don't need more than that 1 meter dash to hit them and to do the stagger. It's only when you're moving around between groups of enemies that you need it. And so, yeah, like 5% on your whole sprint speed is almost nothing. And then the kills restoring 5% stamina is worthless. The second part of this, I think they realized that first part wasn't good enough, so they threw something else on there. And I think that's actually legitimately worthless. Because as I said before, we regenerate 1 stamina per second after only a 0.5 second delay. So, I mean, if you have a base, what's the base stamina? The base stamina is 3, and then the club has how much stamina? Does it say? I can't see. Okay, I can't see it, but I think the club has like 3 or 5 or whatever. So if you have like 8 stamina, and you regenerate 1 stamina every second, that's 12.5% stamina. That's almost triple what this is, just passively. So this is almost no increase to your stamina regeneration, and it's on kill. I don't think it's worth it to take this node. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, great. So, all right, here we go. S. I'm certain that you've noticed on all of my builds, these two have been getting chosen. Zealous Dedication is up to 16% critical strike chance on kill, 8 stacks, lasts 10 seconds. Remember before when I said that my threshold for a good buff in this game is 8 seconds. And if it's anything less than that, I need the effect of the buff to be very quality. This is not only an insanely quality effect, but the duration is fucking massive. 10 seconds is an eternity in Darktide time. For between kills, that is forever. And 16% crit chance is, this class feasts on crit because this class has a 7.5% base crit chance, the highest in the game, tied with the Psyker, right? So this plus this is 23.5, almost 1/4 of your attacks are now crits all the time, pretty much. So absolute S tier. If you noticed, this is on every single build. Every single build, without fail. Do not sleep. Do not take this, okay? I don't care. There's not enough other good nodes in the tree to not take this. Take this. And then we've got Soul Guilt Scan. Weak spot hits grant 2% weak spot strength. Seems very similar, right? It's 16% weak spot strength, lasting 10 seconds. Again, a huge duration on this bad boy. And am I correct? Can someone remind me, do these stacks fall off one at a time? I'm almost tempted to pull up in Darktide right now and test it, but I am tentative in thinking that these stacks don't all fall off when you like snooze on it. I think they might fall off one at a time. If that's true, these are fucking broken. But I mean, they're already fucking broken. But the Soul Guilt Scan, they fall off. Okay, thank you, docs. All at once is the verdict. So it's not that broken, but they are still really fucking broken. Weak spot hits grant 2% weak spot strength. So this is the operative term here, guys. A lot of people don't know what weak spot strength is. Weak spot strength is a very rare type of modifier in this game. I'm actually going to bring up the other place that it's at. If we pull open our Darktide classes here, Veteran has a really great example of this right here. So this is also weak spot strength. Weak spot strength is a multiplier that applies to your base damage when you hit the weak spot. So to interpret this for you, to math this for you, what it means is that when you hit a weak spot, take the damage that you would otherwise deal and multiply it by your weak spot strength. So scale that damage by all the strength, all the damage increases, all the headshot multipliers, all that stuff, and then scale it again by your weak spot strength. And that is what weak spot strength is. So that is why this is S tier, because this is multiplying your damage whenever you hit a headshot by 1.16, which is a massive damage increase. And obviously we're aiming for heads because concussive, right? So very valuable node here. Definite take. And remember, weak spot hits, not melee hits. So snipers with bolter, destroying, shotguns that can aim at the head, destroying, really pretty much anything, destroying, really good. Target selection, killing a pounced elite / specialist grants 15% damage versus elites and specialists, lasts 8 seconds. I find myself not taking this one that much. I do think it's good, but I think there's better stuff to take. I'll give this a B tier. I think it's borderline A, but I don't find that even when I'm playing like a dog focused build that I have enough nodes to spare on it. I think it's better because it doesn't give your dog damage, it gives you damage, and only versus specifically elites and specialists. And I just don't think that we need that specific damage. You could instead spend those nodes or spend those points to get generic damage against everything when you're going for a dog focused build. So that's good. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. D tier for this one right here. This is Serrated Maul. Your Cyber Mastiff applies 6 stacks of brittleness on attack. This is way undertuned. This is a bad node. It's just a bad node. First of all, brittleness is not a very good effect on most types of enemies. It only has any considerable damage increase against those carapace armored enemies, so against crushers and maulers, right? And the max stacks of brittleness is 16. Every stack of brittleness is 2.5%, and so 16 stacks of brittleness is 40% brittleness, which reduces their armor rating by 40% and therefore increases your damage by a lot, right? It increases your damage by a lot. But 6 stacks of brittleness is really low, and it only applies to the target of the attack and not all targets around the area of the attack. And it's such a small number of stacks, it will take your dog 3 pounces to fully stack this brittleness. And remember that this brittleness, it's not a good like boss killing potential thing, because full brittleness stacks on the on like a boss increases your damage by something on the order of like 3 to 4%. I think I've tested it. So it's just not good, and it takes far too long to stack up. Now it might stack up on each tick. Well, that's a good question. It might stack up on each tick with the shocking jaw augment. I still don't think it's good. If that's true, then it could be C tier. I still just don't think it's good because embrittling enemies is really only a good option when it's crushers and it's maulers, and those enemies really aren't that scary to us in general on the RPDs as it exists. So yeah, that's just sort of how I feel about serrated maul. It's definitely not worth the point, and I think the applicable effect is really, really low. I think the applicable effect is really, really low. So I would just definitely not recommend taking this. It's like a bait talent where it's trying to get you to take it when you're focusing on dog focus stuff, but it's just not good. Speaking of dog focus stuff, wait, no, we gotta do this one. Prosecution blow. Well, first of all, prosecution blow is currently bugged and has no effect. So prosecution blow is a dead node. D for dead node. 20% rending on ranged critical strike is what it's supposed to give, though. This could be honestly pretty good if it was not bug. So I'll give it the DB. Alternating when it's patched and fixed such that it actually does work, we'll give it the B tier. But currently, in its bug state, it is in D tier because it does not function at all. It's a completely dead node on the tree. But it would be B tier because we have such a high critical hit chance. There's a bunch of weapons on this class that do very, very well with crit and would appreciate the extra rending. Looking at some of the new shotguns, I mean, even the bolter likes extra rending, right? That honestly isn't bad if you're going for a ranged focus build, but unfortunately it's bugged. Oh, execution order. Man, I thought I was done handing out the triple S's. JK, no I didn't. Triple S for execution order. This is a nuts. I mean, guys, you know how like there was a meme a couple years back. If you're a League of Legends player, you know what I'm talking about here. There was a meme a couple years back because they released this character. What was his name? He's a top laner. He's got shields on both of his arms. Someone say it in the chat. You know what I'm talking about. He's a black fella. And he is power crep the hell, and his ability... Cassante, thank you. Cassante's ability descriptions are like 8 pages long, right? He's got like these crazy, crazy long ability descriptions, and they give you so many effects. You get so many buffs on every single thing you can do. There's like 15 different uses to every ability. There's all these ins and outs, and then you compare him to like a classic character like Nasus, who literally is just like, oh, pressing R makes you larger. You deal enemies to damage around you. Why did I say it like that? Your Q ability hits enemies for 5 damage, and every time you kill an enemy, it stacks by 3. Right? Yeah, 20% life. Yeah, your passive is 20% lifesteal. That was the joke. Is that your passive is 20% lifesteal on Nasus. The passive on Cassante is like 8 paragraphs. Execution order feels like that to me, right? Execution order is Executioner's Calling from the veteran tree, the ultimate ability, by the way, for the veteran, the like flagship veteran ability, and it gives you more buffs than Executioner's Calling does, or Executioner's Stance. Sorry, my bad. Every time you kill an enemy, and it is always on. It literally is on always. It marks a new enemy every 3 seconds. The enemies stay marked for the entire game, and it goes through all everything around you. It wall hacks the enemies. If this only marked the enemies, if this was only the top thing, if this didn't even, I'm covering it with my hand. You can't see that, but I'm covering the bottom part with my hand. If this was only that top paragraph, this would still be it would at least be 2 S's for a Keystone because of what's about to come below it in the tree. But the wall hacks alone are insane, and you get 15% toughness whenever you kill one of these marked targets. So Okay, it's good. This is good even without the dog. You're right, Snappo. Even without the dog, you can make builds around this because of what's going to come below. But then we also have dog buffs, and the dog buffs are positively massive. So first off, it's a plus one. It's not 150% cyber massive damage. It's plus 150. Take the cyber massive's damage and multiply it by 2.5. So crazy. And it does not activate when the dog kills a marked enemy. It activates when the dog attacks the marked enemy. So as soon as the first damage hits the target, his damage shoots the fuck up. And it stays up for 8 seconds, which, as we established before, is my threshold for a decent buff. And this is a really, really good buff. And you gain 15% damage and 10% attack speed. This fucking attack speed is falling out of my pockets. I can't hold it all. For 8 seconds after killing a marked enemy. You don't have to do the killing. If the dog does the killing, you get that buff too. So the dog can go around instantly murdering all these elites and specials because of this node right here, Unleash Brutality. It'll tell him to go hunt out specifically the blue targets. And he'll get these kills and you will have 15% damage, 10% attack speed. You'll be getting back 15% toughness every like 4 seconds whenever he gets a kill. Plus, all these buffs we're about to talk about down here. First of which is Malakator, which is, of course, S tier. Can I grab my fucking S, please? S-ing me around. Malakator is S tier. Malakator's 50% cooldown regeneration for 8 seconds after a marked kill. So think about it like this. During the next 8 seconds after you kill a marked target, you will cut 4 additional seconds off of your cooldown. So when you use Break the Line and you charge into enemies and you have a 12-second cooldown, your cooldown is now effectively 8 seconds instead. Or with Castigator's stance, if you use this ability, your cooldown is effectively 30 seconds instead, provided you are getting these kills consistently. And again, if you have the dog will be seeking out these targets and killing them near constantly. It's very, very unlikely, unless you're playing Douglas, I almost said it the wrong way, that you won't have full uptime on Malakator. So crazy, crazy good node. And the only source of cooldown reduction for either of these two nodes. So here is my personal opinion, is that if you are playing with the dog, your options are any of these abilities, quite obviously. But these two abilities, if you choose them, you pretty much have to be in Execution Order, personally. Because these abilities have long enough cooldowns that Execution Order and Malakator is going to just give you huge, 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 huge value. So you should be into that. If you are playing with this one over here, you dogless or dog full, you don't have to take Execution Order, although it might still be recommended if you're going with the dog. If you are Douglas, though, your choice should be Break the Line, because this has the shortest cooldown and you do not require the additional cooldown of Malakator. You can play Douglas and go Nuncio into Execution Order and do it for yourself, but I do think it is better with the dog. That's just where I'm at. Obviously I do have that Tactician build that goes Douglas, that uses Shock Mines, that uses Nuncio, and it focuses on executing itself rather than having the dog do it, and that is purely for that cooldown reduction. But there's some other good stuff in here too. And yes, this will be going live afterwards. I'll be uploading. I got to edit and all that stuff, but yeah. Okay, so this is also S tier. This is a crazy node. 10% crit chance and 25% crit damage on mark kill. Another 8-second massive, massive buff. If this was just if this was just either one of these, it would be good. It would still be S tier, but it's both. So 10% crit chance. Remember what our crit was at before, right? Our crit is at 7.5. Plus 16, 23.5. This pushes our crit to 33.5% without considering weapon buffs, without considering ally buffs, without considering any of that stuff. 1 in 3 attacks will be a crit. And crits in this game are good, guys. I don't know if you are aware of that, but crits in this game are really, really fucking good, especially considering we have stupid attack speed and we are spamming attacks out every 0.1 seconds and fishing for crits. So absolutely S tier. Down here we've got Keeping Protocol. Killing a marked enemy grants 1% damage versus monstrosities and 1% damage resistance versus monstrosities. 30 max stacks, lasts until the end of the mission. So we'll just have to assume that what this means is 30% damage resistance and damage to monstrosities, right? It's going to be stacked up almost instantly. The harder difficulty you play on, the more instantly this is stacked up. I'm kind of conflicted about this one. I'm between A and S. It is good, although it feels a bit extraneous at times. I think it is good. What do we think? What do we think? Is this A or S? Do you guys think this is as good as the other S stuff, or is it a little bit lower? I think A is appropriate. Yeah, okay. The consensus, guys, if you didn't catch this live, I'm sorry, but the consensus is that it is A. It's only applicable to monstrosities, right? It's only applicable to Chaos Spawns, Beasts of Nurgles, and the Plague Ogrins, right? You will almost always have that value up, but it is very deep in this node. It is an extra point that could be spent elsewhere, which is a very valid consideration, considering look at how much blue is on this tree right now. There's lots of other stuff that we want to be spending these points on that isn't this node right here. And we have good boss damage from other places. Now, this was bugged until yesterday, and I noticed it, but I didn't want to say anything about it, but it was actually providing that extra damage to all. Like, I think it was like Ogrins were taking that damage as well, so it was kind of busted. But yeah, for like the hunter build that I published and stuff like that, it is really nice to have that additional damage. It's a big lump of damage. So if you are the designated boss killer, the DBK, then yeah, it's pretty good. I'll give it A. But there are things that you could spend those points on instead. I think Not Far Behind is honestly one of those nodes. This is a constant 10% damage and constant 10% movement speed buff because the dog is always pouncing. You are in execution order, right? And you have the dog by necessity. And so therefore the dog is killing its target every 5 seconds. At the very least, it's killing its target, and it's going to be giving you that boost in movement speed. Now, is this 100% necessary? Does it like make or break builds? No, but I do think it is very strong. And if you have extra nodes to spend and you're going for a dog-focused execution order build, it's really good. So I will give it the A tier, but don't go out of your way to pick this up unless you are going dog-focused build. Over here, we've got 10% rending for 8 seconds after a mark kill. C tier. I don't know. It's no, do not go Keystoneless on this class. You are sleeping. This is not the veteran. Do not go Keystoneless on this class. This class is Keystones. Fuck. Real hard. So this one is 10% rending, and 10% rending isn't a whole lot of rending. I don't know if you guys know that. It'll increase your damage a little bit, but remember that rending only has a effect on enemies that have armor that reduces your damage. And so that's pretty much just carapace enemies. It's just crushers, it's just maulers. And so, you know, having 10% rending, how much is it really going to affect you? Do you feel 10% rending when you're using the shock maul or the shield? Right, those like the shield itself, the bully club and shield, you can get a 25% rending node, rending blessing on there. You know, not really that important. So I say it's C tier, and yeah, okay. Let's come up here and look at the middle node here. This is the why can't I pull it up? There it is. No, wait. There it is. Fuck. Okay. So Toughness or sorry, fuck. Jesus, I'm thrown off. Justified measures. This is S tier. Okay, this is S tier. This is 15% damage that you will always have. So that's pretty simple, right? The reason that you will always have this is because, you know, if you're playing Douglas, it just stacks up when you attack, right? How often you're attacking quite often, so you'll just have this damage really quickly. Great. If you have the dog instantly stacks it up. If you have electrocute the voltaic mandibles, if you have this right here, if the dog hits a single enemy, it stacks it to full. So the dog is really good for giving you those buffs. So S tier for that. Coming down here to street smarts. Oh my god, dude. Psychers are so fucking molding right now. Psychers are they're communing with the fucking forces in the void to just bomb this class from Orbit. Like, they are so mad that they took one of their best nodes and gave it to this class that is already stupid impossible to kill, and now you get extra dodges on top of that. Like, good luck killing this class already, and now he gets an extra operative dodge with extra with extra range or extra iframes, right? It's silly. And yes, rending does apply for every type of armor enemies, but remember that enemies that have anything less than carapace armor do not have any considerable damage reduction. It really only is noticeable at all on carapace enemies. But yeah, this additional iframes on the dodge and the additional dodge is huge. The more skill you have as a player, the more dodges become valuable, and this is going to increase the number and the value of those dodges. So pretty cool. Over here we got Rebreather. Now this I am going to go ahead and just give a C tier to. I think I'm giving it a C and not a D because it is kind of a meme, right? You know, this is a cool effect. The damage resistance to toxic gas. Personally, I just think they should remove the fucking toxic gas from the game. But that's just me. And corruption resistance isn't bad. But, you know, there are certain maps where this will be really good on. But on your generic builds, I don't... the Razor Jaw Augment has the dog's bites apply bleed. Oh, wait, did they change it? Okay, so pounce targets now get 16 bleeds. Okay, well, we got to revisit that. Rebreather is triple S tier, no joke. Well, if you're in a Pox Gas map, right? If you're in a Pox Gas map, I'm not personally bothered too much by Pox Bombers on this class because of the crazy regeneration that you get. I think that maybe it's B tier. Maybe it's B tier. It could be B tier just because, like, it's like usable sometimes or else. It does help with Ogre and Stank, that's true. I don't know. I need to experiment with this more. I played 2 games with it and it was nice, but I find myself like debating because there's so many good nodes at the bottom of the tree here that I oftentimes don't want to spare it for that. Priority endowment. Priority endowment is 15% clip size rounded up. Gas mines from twins. That's actually a good thing. Again, kind of specific as well, but 15% clip size rounded up is a very specific buff. This is meme tier, so I have to give this C. This has to be C. The reason being, right? If we think about the weapons that get value out of this, think about the Arbites shotguns, right? We have a 6 magazine shotgun. We have a 4 magazine shotgun. Both of those are going to get 1 additional shell from this. The bolter will get 3 additional rounds. It'll go from 15 to 18. You've got all your like assault rifles and stuff, but those are really the operative weapons. The one that stands out is the double-barreled shotgun. Obviously, it goes from 2 to 3. LOL, triple-barreled shotgun, meme tier. But for the really important weapons, for the meta-ist of weapons, this is a very small amount. And the thing that really annoys me is it doesn't push these weapons into having more regeneration for this effect right here, for Blessed Armament. So when you are using Blessed Armament, it gives you 10% total ammo in your clip, rounded up, and it doesn't make the bolter get more ammo as a result because it's rounded up from 18. It's still 2 shots every time you get a kill with it, so it doesn't help the bolter out. It's still just 1 shell for everything else. So there's really not a whole lot of synergy between this except for a couple of mean setups. And where does the 3rd shell go? It is up your ass. Why was I rude to my viewer? I'm sorry. March, 15% movement speed on ranged hit, lasts 3 seconds. B tier? B tier? This is good, but again, you have to be doing a very specific build with it. If you're doing a running gunning shotgunner build, pretty dang good, honestly. 15% is no joke, especially considering how fast you can get your movement speed with some other stuff in this class. Like, if you're doing a specific gunner build, you've got access to this node up here. Oh, well, shoot, I should have just gone on the other tree. You've got access to no escape, so you could be, like, ostensibly shooting a target, like sniping a target with no escape, sniping a leader or specialist, and also activating March at the same time, so for an extra 25% movement speed, and really repositioning very rapidly. You could even have, not far behind, Pounce on there. You could even have Castigators at the same time and be walking around at plus 60% movement speed. So there's a lot of different ways you could scale that, but I don't think that this tree right now is all that in vogue or in the meta. And so I don't think that this is all that strong, because the strength of the class right now is in its stagger potential. Melee Arbites is where it's at. Gunner ranged Arbites is a bit lower, a bit more niche. You can be a boss killer, but generally your sidearm in the Arbites doesn't have to be focused on to get value. You don't have to spec a whole lot of points to get value out of it. So I don't think that we should be like, over investing. It's also only a 3-second buff, so you pretty much have to be constantly shooting to get that. Okay, let's finish off this right side here before we talk about Terminus Warrant. Cower Miscreants, 25% damage versus suppressed enemies. I am not a fan of the suppression effect in Darktide, not gonna lie. Because suppression effects only affect ranged enemies, and suppression is just such a wonky thing. It's so ambiguous into how it applies sometimes. I swear, sometimes enemies 100% should be suppressed, and they're not. I've never liked that it is an effect. It causes enemies to behave unpredictably and cower and run around. I'd rather them just stand there and try to kill me than do this nonsense. So, yeah, Cower Miscreants, I'm going to give this a C tier. You can't suppress melee enemies. And you're not going to suppress ranged enemies by hitting them over the head with a mace. You're just going to kill them by hitting them over the head with the mace. So I don't really understand the value here. It just doesn't work consistently in any reasonable way. That's the problem with suppression. I swear to God, like, there must be some sort of glitch. It's like, the Twin Link heavy suppression blessing does work on. Oh, it doesn't work on enemy melee. Maybe it's different for the augment suppression. But like, yeah, it's just so inconsistent when enemies are suppressed and not, and it's just too finicky. I just don't think. I mean, first of all, we got other stuff to spend points on. We don't need to spend it on this shit. Target priority, 50% to damage to enemies above 75% health. I think this is pretty good. There are times where you could swap perks on your weapons. It depends on what weapon you use, right? This isn't applicable to all weapons, but there are certain weapons where you can swap your perks to other types of perks and still maintain one-shot potential on certain enemies. Maintain those one-shot breakpoints, which is a really good value out of this. 15% extra damage when you're opening up on a target, on all targets, is very good. And it can help you reach breakpoints that you would otherwise have to spec your weapons for in order to one-shot these targets. So pretty nice. Not always like instant pickup, but definitely pretty nice. But we do have an S tier. I always pick this up. Almost all my builds use this right here. This is additional 20% damage to ogres and monstrosities, right? The two highest health categories of enemies in the game: crushers, bulwarks, reapers, and all monstrosity bosses. These are the enemies with big health pools, so you aren't going to overkill them by stacking more damage against them. You're just going to do more damage. So this is a really good place to invest your extra damage points to eke some more damage out. And it's also the reason why on a lot of the weapons, especially whatever boss or like whatever melee weapon you're using, you want to run Uncanny, you want to run Carapace, because you're going to hit these enemies multiple times, so it stacks up. Humanoid enemies such as the twins and captains do not count as monstrosities, however, but that's okay because the weapons of this class absolutely shred those enemies anyway. we have Terminus Warrant here. I have conflicted feelings about Terminus Warrant. Terminus Warrant is a... I might make a video on this in the future. I think Terminus Warrant, I would like to see it tweaked in some ways. I think it is too specific in what it requires of players to be effective in the way that the other nodes are. The other Keystones are so ridiculously accessible and always are providing you effects, and this one has you play little funny monkey games in order to get what you're supposed to get out of it. Now, that's not to say that the effects that it gives aren't good, right? So Terminus Warrant says that range attacks grant melee justice for each enemy hit, max 30. So this is hits, not every attack. So if you shoot a shotgun, or let's say like a bolter, right? A bolter has good enough cleave that if you shoot 30 enemies that were all stacked up in a perfect line, you would instantly stack to 30 stacks of melee justice. Okay, so hold that. When you swap to your melee weapon, now you will be able to cash in those stacks of melee justice, and every hit that you do will have 15% melee damage and 25% melee impact while you still have these stacks. And then the inverse is happening. So you'll get up to 30 stacks, and then you'll cash out those stacks, and you'll swap into getting range justice stacks with your melee attacks now. So when you are hitting enemies in melee, you are now stacking range justice stacks. And this means that if you sweep like a horde in front of you and you hit 8 enemies, that immediately cashes in 8 stacks of Terminus Warrant and turns them into range stacks. And range stacks you can cash out for 15% range damage, 50% range cleave, and 50% suppression. Okay, so here is the fundamental issue with this, and I see that Soggy has already zeroed in on it. What I was going to say to a T, right? Getting enough stacks for the to cash in for the melee requires ammo, right? It requires you to shoot ammo in order to stack up to get those melee stacks. And because melee stacks can be consumed so quickly, you end up spending a ton of ammo to get it back. So here's the problem, is that what do you do when there's a big horde of trash enemies in front of you? You don't generally want to pull out your shotgun, especially in higher difficulties. You don't want to pull out your gun and waste ammo blasting them away. Those are trash enemies. You can just go and take your melee weapon and kill them for free. You should be conserving resources whenever possible. But by not using your ranged weapon on the trash, you are foregoing your best opportunity to get stacks for your melee stacks. And then the next time you run into like some sort of engagement, like with crushers or whatever, where you want to actually have those melee stacks, you won't. So you either have to waste ammo or not have the stacks. And therein lies the problem. The reduced ammo in Havoc makes playing like this really annoying. And I've tried several different ways of circumventing this. I've tried using a really rapid fire weapon like the Shredder Auto Pistol. I saw someone LMAO about that in the chat. But I've tried the Shredder Auto Pistol. It just takes way too fucking long to stack it up. And it takes, 30 bullets at the very minimum to get it stacked up. The only way to play this reasonably is to go with a pellet-focused weapon with good cleave and shoot into big hordes. And the appropriate thing to do would be to not do that and just melee it all to death instead. And then at that point, you're not getting the effects of this Keystone at all. So we need to talk about the knock-on effects of the Keystone. So let's move down here to left and right. First of all, I am going to give this Keystone a B tier. B for back to the drawing board, Fat Shark. I think this needs work. As compared to the other two, which are insane. So we assuming we're playing with it, over here we have Dispense Justice. While you have stacks of range justice, you have 20% reload speed. I don't know, honestly I can kind of care less. C tier. Like 20% reload speed. I mean, yeah, you get nice, Hassan. You get this pretty much constantly, but I don't want to spend this extra point here, right? This is just extra point spending for no reason. This is an extra point spent for a utility that you generally don't really need. So I'll give that a C tier. Over here we have Terminal Decree. Now they'll rate this higher. This is an A tier. But the problem is it's trapped behind an inefficient Keystone. So what does Terminal Decree does? Well, Terminal Decree says when you have stacks of melee justice, you gain an additional 100% melee toughness regeneration, and allies in coherency replenish 20% of any toughness you replenish. Okay, well this is two separate parts, and Pyrella, I'm coming back to that, don't you worry. This is two separate parts. We have the first part here, 100% additional melee toughness regeneration. What this means is that normally when you get a melee kill, you get 5% of your toughness back. This will now give you 10%. That's all that is. I don't know why they don't just state that plainly, but that's all it is. 10% toughness instead of 5. For the second part, now this is where this gets its value. Allies in coherency replenish 25% of any toughness that you replenish. We are a king at regenerating toughness on this build, or on this class, because we have an ability right here that replenishes 100% of your toughness. We have all this stuff that replenishes 100% of your toughness. We have the Nuncio Aquila that replenishes your toughness. We have all these abilities up here that replenish your toughness. Remember earlier when, hypothetically, we used a melee attack and we swiped and we killed 3 small enemies with one melee attack? And it replenished 40% of our toughness. Okay, so your allies get 10% of your toughness just for you doing that. So really, really cool that it supplies to the allies. It can prevent them from getting chip damage, whereas otherwise, you know, they would take some damage from that. So pretty cool, pretty strong. Unfortunately, it is trapped behind Terminus Warrant, which isn't exactly very easy to use. And speaking of not very easy to use, we have to talk about Obstinate and Writ of Judgment. Okay, Obstinate is first. Obstinate is a pretty dang good buff here. I think this one is probably at that S tier rank. Again, modified, make it a little bit lower in your mind because it is behind this node right here. But yeah, I just wish this class was a little bit better at getting toughness. Obstinate gives you 15% melee attack speed until you run out of stacks or swap to your ranged weapon when you swap and have 15 stacks or more. So this is pretty easy to get, right? It's pretty easy to ride that line between the two. Generally, it's pretty easy to get to at least 15 stacks and then have 15% attack speed for the next 15 enemies hit. So that's not honestly that bad. Same thing applies to the ranged weapon, right? It's not that bad to get the stacks up. And 15% attack speed, 15% fire rate, those are good buffs. So these are very, very solid, especially if you're using a weapon that you are like just specifically gonna go like dunk on bosses with. So I'm thinking like the Crusher, right? You'd use the shotgun, you'd shoot like 2 shots into the crowd, you'd get a bunch of these ranged, the melee justice stacks, and now you have 15% melee attack speed. You're probably also going Douglas, so you got 10 here, you got, you know, it's all over the tree. So you just go and dunk on the boss with extra attack speed there. So I think this is pretty solid. But Writ of Judgment disappoints me. This is way, way, way too hard to routinely activate and get value out of. You know, I made a build recently, I believe it's called like Crushing Heretics or something on my page, and you know, it was a pain. Even in the recording for it, it was a pain trying to drag my sorry ass to 30 stacks to start cashing those out, because this buff is good for melee weapons, the 15% rending, and it is pretty good for certain range weapons with that additional crit strike damage and weak spot damage. But the weapons that really capitalize on the latter perk don't really synergize with this ability, right? The one that I wanted to use with this is the revolver. I saw that the ranged weapon thing would give me 25% crit damage, critical strike damage, and 25% weak spot damage, and I was like, ooh, I want to use the revolver for this, but I would never get any melee stacks. So what I'd have to do is make it like a ranged focus build using this. So I'd have to be like a revolver focused range build, and I almost would never have any melee stacks because you're not really hitting that many targets with a revolver. So here's what I want for this ability, and I'll make a video about this specifically in the future. Here's what I want for this ability. Whatever weapon that you have out, it should be building 1 stack for you per second, right? So when you're just running around, you're passively generating some stacks. You're getting some value. And then if you use it a lot, you do need to swap over to the other weapon and pump up the jam and get some extra stacks in your bank. But just having a slow trickle of stacks means you'll just have to babysit it a lot less. I really dislike this Keystone's micromanagement requirement. It doesn't sit well with me. It's just kind of really annoying to have to always look down at my buffs and be like, where am I at? How many buff stacks do I have? Yada yada. Meanwhile, these other two Keystones just supply passive benefits all the time. You don't even have to think about them. Once you've got them stacked up, they're good to go, and they start providing tons of value without having to worry about it. So that's how I feel about this node, is it just needs to generate a little bit something passive. What I'll say about this last node down here is I think this is probably B, right? It's a pretty good buff, but it's just so hard to get with any consistency. Okay, coming over here, we've got Hold the Line. Staggering an enemy grants 1 stack of 3% damage resistance on the next melee hit taken, stacking 5 times. So it's damage resistance, so it's generic damage resistance, meaning it's not just toughness, it's health and toughness, which is really, really good, and it's going to apply on the next melee hit we take. So this actually has extra value because melee attacks, anytime you are missing any toughness at all, they bleed through onto your health. So remember 3 hours ago, or whenever it was, sorry, let's see, 2 hours ago, when I mentioned that toughness or damage reduction is very valuable because it prevents bleed through to your health as well as reducing the damage you take to your toughness. This is the same deal here. Because this melee hit that hits you is ostensibly going to not only damage your toughness but bleed through to your health, it's going to reduce that damage to your health by 15%. So really, really, really strong. And this is also stacked to full by the dog attacking a single target if you have voltaic mandibles, or staggering a single crusher even 1 time will stack this to full. So really, really strong talent, S tier talent. Okay, we got on the left, target the weak. Oh my god, dude. An Ogren talent just like lifted and put into this tree. S tier, target the weak. Enemies staggered by your melee attacks take 15% more melee damage for 5 seconds. This is one of the best nodes on the whole Ogren tree, and the Arbites gets it. Yay! Balance! And we can stagger enemies without actually staggering them. Yay! Balance! So yeah, all you gotta do is walk up to a boss and hit him in the head 1 time, and automatically the Ogren and everybody else on your fuck-off team that's stabbing the boss is now going to do 15% more damage to the boss for the next 5 seconds because you hit them 1 time. So think about it like this. The boss has it's Havoc, right? So the boss has 100,000 HP. You walk up to the boss. Let's say you take, what's the worst? Let's say you take attack axe to the boss. You walk up to the boss. You light attack the boss 1 time in the head with concussive. For the next 4 seconds, that boss effectively has 15,000 less HP, right? So that's the effect of these damage increase taken sort of modifiers, and this is crazy because it modifies the whole team and your own damage. So yeah, nuts so talented. Absolutely S tier. Did I already give it S tier? Yeah, I did. I love it. Okay, over here on the right side, Emperor's Fist, 15% melee damage and 30% impact on first enemy hit with each attack. Another solid S tier. I love this one. It just gives you so much more chance to actually actively stagger on that first hit. Your first overhead, right? So like enemies like Ragers are generally very scary for classes. You know, back when old Ogre was a thing and he didn't have enough impact, Ragers would get all over him. Just ask any zealot, right? The scariest enemies are generally Ragers because if you don't hit them with the dueling sword special attack, they can actually get on you and do some damage. So you want to stagger them on the first attack. Well, guess what 30% extra impact allows you to do? You can stagger them on that first heavy attack, and then you can follow up with the weapon special on the RBD shock wall, and they die without ever having to interact with you at all. So this is a really, really solid buff on the first enemy hit with each attack, so your single target DPS is just raised by 15% right here. Well, I mean multiplicative, so not quite that, but the impact is a nice icing on top of that, and it just allows you to play a lot safer when you're engaging those scary enemies. Down here we got weighted Lex, 15% damage for 5 seconds after melee. Okay, that's here, great. You know, open your weapon combos with a heavy melee attack. And it's not 15% melee damage for 5 seconds after the heavy melee attack, it's 15% damage. So if you heavy 1, swap to your double-barreled shotgun and shoot them square in the chest, that double-barreled shotgun does 15% more damage. If you heavy 1 and then use the weapon special and now electrocute them, the electrocution stacks do 15% more damage. If they're bleeding or whatever from your effects, they're taking 15% more damage. So yeah, really, really good. If you throw the grenades at them, right? If you heavy melee attack something and then throw a grenade, that grenade does 15% more damage. Value, lots of value. Final warning over here, though. I think this is B tier at the best. Final warning, what it gives us. What did I just do? I hit something and I didn't mean to hit, and I probably fucked my fucking Photoshop up forever. Final warning gives me 15% range damage on melee staggering hits last 5 seconds. So this requires you to do this back and forth swap between melee and ranged. You know, it's pretty good, but I don't think it's at all necessary. I'm still going, baby. And we're recording this and I'm putting it up too. The thing here is you have to swap weapons, hot swap weapons. Now it's good, but I don't think that you need the extra 15% range damage on many of the options that are quick swaps here, because think about which weapons can you swap quickly enough to get this value out of. It's the shotguns that already do 1,000 fucking damage. They're already killing their targets in one. Thank you, James G. I appreciate you as well, and I also love your build videos that you haven't made yet, but start making them, and I love them. Strike down, though, 15% melee rending on staggered enemies. It allows us to kill our crushers, you know, those sort of things a little bit faster. I'm going to give this an A tier. I got to rank this a little bit lower because this is, you know, it's specific. It's just crushers. And we already pretty much dunked the fuck out of crushers, no problem, no questions asked. So yeah, A tier. It's still really good, right? If you're going for a melee focused build, you might as well, just to get those crushers done a little bit better, do them good. Oh shoot, I skipped this one up here. S tier. This is drive them back. Pushing grants 75% cleave for 5 seconds. So this one, yeah, that's true dual front. Some of these, this one right here, final warning, this should be over here, is what I feel like. But drive them back, pushing grants 75% cleave for 5 seconds. This is S tier. This is really, really good, guys. There are so many talents in this tree that if you don't read them carefully, you might be lulled into thinking that it has less applicability than it does. But it is 75% cleave, not melee cleave, it's cleave. So if you push enemies back and then pull out your shotgun, that shotgun now has 75% extra cleave for the next 5 seconds, which is massive on weapons that have spread for that penetration, for just going through stuff. If you just push, you don't have to, it doesn't say pushing an enemy, it just says pushing. So just push the air, swap to your bolter. Boom, 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 boom. Like just murder everything in front of you. So this is really, really a good value. And the fact that it's the center node here that everything spokes off from is just an amazing placement. And, you know, cleave is just such a good thing for horde clear. It doesn't hurt at all that the best weapon in the class here, BD Shock Maul, opens its best horde clear combo with a push stab into heavy 1, into heavy 2, into push stab, rinse and repeat. So yeah. Oh, it doesn't work pushing air. Okay, thank you, Charles. Never mind. You have to push an enemy, which, I mean, isn't that hard to do. The enemies are all fucking over you, but still. That's good to know. Thank you. So correct that. Don't push the air and go boom, 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 boom. Push an enemy. Have a little poxwalker follow you around, shove him to his knees and say, you stay down, and then shoot his whole family to death. But True Grit, this is stupid. I slept on this initially until the first dozen times that I got one shot by some fucking bullshit in Havoc, and now I can't live without it. This is, you know how Zealot has that talent that prevents him from dying and leaves him with 1 HP? This does that 4 times. Like, this is nuts, because how you die when you are a very skilled player is by what I call catastrophic fuck-ups. Just one silly thing slipping through. You all saw it if you were in the stream the other day, right? Absolutely cleaning the enemy's clocks as Ogren, right? I was clobbering my way through the level. I was invincible. I was tanking 3 fucking bosses in the corner. And you know what happened? In 1 millisecond, I got shot in the face with a plasma gun from the ranged twin, and then I took an overhead from a boss and instantly died. And I was left speechless, right? Stealth attacks from enemies, stealth overheads, overreaching overheads like maulers that seemingly ice skate for 1 million light years and then clip you with the very tip pixel of their shit. That's the only thing, once you reach a certain level of skill, that is going to kill you. And now this talent swoops in and says, nah, you actually get to make that mistake, but 3 times. And if you take even a single talent that gives you, or a single perk in your curios that gives you 5% HP, now your base HP is high enough that you can make another mistake. So yeah, it's really, really, really good. It allows you to make sloppy mistakes, and that's how games are lost, guys, is sloppy mistakes. So ensure against those, and you've got something monstrous on your hands. As if this class wasn't tanky enough, now we can't even get overwhelmed and killed by one single mistake. We have to be killed by a series of catastrophic fuck-ups. Forceful! Staggered hits and blocked attacks grant stacks of Forceful, lasting 5 seconds and stacking 10 times. Each stack gives 5% impact and 2.5% damage resistance, removes stack on damage taken. So, this is just better Feel No Pain from the Ogren, right? So it just, yeah, remember when we just nabbed the Ogren's thing up here? Yeah, we're just nabbing Feel No Pain but making it better. We can stack these stacks. They don't just stack once every 3 seconds. They don't stack on push like that stupid little node called Stronger on the Ogren's thing. They stack on staggering hits. So every time you swing the weapon, you get a staggering hit, at least one, right, when you hit an enemy. But it's hits. It's not staggering attacks. So if you swing 1 weapon swing and hit 3 enemies, you get 3 stacks. Or even better, if you use the shield's flashbang ability and you flashbang 10 enemies, you instantly get 10 stacks because they are staggering quote-unquote hits. So this thing is almost always constantly stacked out, and it only loses stacks when you take damage, which, I mean, okay, cool. So we have 25% damage resistance cooked in to the first time we take damage, and we gain 50% impact until then, which means everything is just fucking staggered all over itself. It can't even move. So really, really strong Keystone. I don't think it's Execution Order strong Keystone because it is lacking, like, this is for personal display of skill. I think that this Keystone over here is overtuned because it gives you not only stupid damage, stupid access to stupid like utility and extra damage, but it also gives you fucking wall hacks, right? Over here, this one is like, if you are a high skill player, if you're going Douglas charge BDs, you take this, you are a juggernaut. You're just a melee juggernaut. Coming down here, Will of the Lex, replenish 0.5% toughness each second per stack. This is pretty good. I don't think it's A tier or S tier. I think it's A tier. Look, ask guys. Yeah, I think it's definitely an A tier. It's regenerating 5% toughness per second while it's maxed out. But remember, at this point in the tree, here's the thing. Why this is diminishing returns here. At this point in the tree, holy shit, do we have some crazy fucking stamina or toughness regeneration. I mean, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like, yeah, 7 different ways to regenerate toughness. Like, it's crazy. Like, you know, this is awesome. You can take, like, the very first build I put out, which was Beat Cop. It uses this node, and it has 15% toughness damage or toughness regeneration per second because it uses all 3 of the regeneration nodes, which is really funny looking. But I just think it's overkill at this point, and I think there's better stuff in this little part of the tree. We've got Adamant Will here. This is nuts. This is nuts. This is a very high skill talent here, but it's really, really good. So again, remember earlier when I said how you die is through catastrophic fuck-ups. I'm doing air quotes here. So like Dr. Evil. Catastrophic fuck-ups. What happens when you get ripped in high difficulties is something hits you that you didn't expect. It breaks your toughness and puts you into hit stagger. Because we are not Ogren, we can be hit staggered. So this makes you immune to that. So you will no longer be able to be walloped by a shotgun in like the back that you didn't notice, and suddenly you are stunned. Because that is one of the ways you lose missions, is you get stunned and you can't act, you can't dodge. As I've said before, crowd control is death in this game, both for you and for the enemies. So if you get crowd controlled, the chances are you are dying. That is why eliminating crowd controllers like mutants and trappers and stuff like that is just utmost priority, and it's why not getting stunned when you're in combat is greater priority. Now, that's just one part of this. The other part is your perfect blocks being able to block all attacks. So, yeah, you got yourself into a position where you've been dodging, like let's say let's say you're dueling the twins, right? And you've got the ranged twin who's been shooting at you, and you've used all your dodges to dodge those range attacks, and Rinda's on you, and she's charging up for that fucking huge ass slash that's going to cut through you, and it's going to cut through your health too, and it's going to put you down. Your perfect blocks can block that attack. Your perfect blocks can block the overhead from the crusher. It's going to take all your stamina, but it will block it, right? And that is very, very valuable in a pinch, because there's a lot of times where the thing that kills you is your position that gets you get yourself into a corner, and there's just nowhere to go. You're trapped on both sides by enemies. Sometimes you just can't avoid this shit. And as I said before, this is a catastrophic fuck up resistance perk. It's going to enable you to pull a perfect block and walk away from what would otherwise be instant death. And that's really big, especially on Havoc, where overheads and instant crushing attacks like that are instant death. They'll instantly put you down and kill you. Okay, so that's S tier, by the way. Oh, I did it already. Okay, cool. Target acquired while at max stacks for... Oh my god, dude. This is a crazy node. I forgot how stupid this was. Sass. While at max stacks and for 3 seconds afterwards, so all the time, pretty much, right? Gain 10% attack speed and 50% cleave. Holy shit. If it was just 10% attack speed, this would still be S tier. This class, I have to stop. We're 2 notes from the end. I have to stop. This class is so fucking power crept. I mean, I love it. I love building this class. I love feeling like an unstoppable juggernaut. It just feels good. But this on any other class would just be the first part of the node. It would just say gain 10% attack speed and the 50% cleave would be left out. But you not only get 10%, and by the way, while at max stacks, these stacks are up for 8 seconds, so you get 5 seconds if you let them all fall off. If you let one, these fall off one at a time, right? So once it goes down to 9 stacks, you still have another 3 seconds. So you have 8 seconds minimum where this is going to be active if you're not taking damage. So yeah, you get 10% all the time, and then 50% cleave all the time. So good job. That's nice and balanced and good. S tier. Okay, down here in the last 2 guys. Judicial Force, staggering nearby enemies upon reaching 0 stacks or 10 stacks, 5-second cooldown, separate for each. Okay, so this one, I read something on the forums about it. I'm trying to remember what it was, because someone just recently found kind of a weird interaction in the way that it works. It's not exactly what's worded here. What you would think is that you can go to 9 stacks and back to 10, but it's something weird with that. But here's the thing. I don't think we have enough points at this point to be getting this, right? There's so many. Look how many S tiers are here, by the way, right? This stuff is so valuable. This stuff is so valuable. This stuff is so valuable. This isn't as valuable because it's just some stagger, and it activates only when you do one of 2 things, right? You have to reach 0 stacks. So 0 stacks means you either have to get hit 10 times, or you have to wait around for the stacks to fall off, which is unlikely to happen. or you have to also have this node over here, which we'll talk about in a second. So that's the only way you can reach 0 stacks. The other way is reaching 10 stacks, which won't happen unless you get hit or you let a stack fall off. So that's the problem here. I'll give this one like a B tier, maybe, I think. I've run builds with it, but I don't think I've ever really felt the effect, because even though it says like it's a 5-second cooldown, you really aren't triggering it all that often, unless you're using Arbites Vigilant, which on combat ability gain 2.5% strength for each stack, lasts 10 seconds, removes all stacks. So, as a reminder, these stack up to 10 times, so you can get up to 25% strength, which strength is both attack damage and stagger power. And this lasts 10 seconds. These stacks last 5 seconds. So it's pretty easy on certain weapons to get this stacked up really quickly. And then cash it in for additional 25% strength for 10 seconds. I think this is honestly pretty good. It does remove all your stacks, but as we said, it's pretty damn easy to get all your stacks back in fairly quick order, especially with certain weapons. I think this would be excellent with the shield, especially considering the shield has that flashbang ability to instantly cap your stacks. So I'll give this an A tier. I think that this B tier thing has good synergies with it, but again, I think we're in the realm where down here, we have already bought so many of these nodes that we don't have the points remaining for these, and they are just kind of like icing on the cake. They're just kind of extraneous at this point. So there it is. Okay, guys. Well, in summary, here's what we're looking at. Let's count. Yes, if you use shield charge, you spend them all, and you would get back ones proportional to how many you stagger when you do it. So that's a really, really good way to get them back instantly. So yeah, it's a really, really good augment with the shield charge, because with the shield charge, this has a short enough cooldown that you can be cashing these in every 10 seconds and keep that damage buff up. So pretty good. Okay, so in summary, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's count that as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 A's. So I'll type that in the chat. 16 A. B's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 B. For C's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we're gonna go test Razor Jaw augment right here. It's 8 C's and 1, 2, 3, 4 D's. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 26, 30, 31, 34, 35, 38, 41 S-ranked abilities in here. Maybe I should have made another S tier to like separate these out, but I think this really just kind of exemplifies how good these abilities are. I'm a player who's been playing Darktide for 2,500 hours. Okay, I know what powerful abilities look like. This class has almost no abilities that on any other class would be seen as bad, right? Let's look at, like, just really quickly. Let's look at the Zealot, for instance. Well, I think the Zealot is probably the guiltiest class of having either S's or D's in its tree. Look at this node right here. Your melee attacks get 30%. Oh, they actually just buffed this recently, but it's still like whatever. 30% impact strength and 10% attack speed for 5 seconds after emptying your ranged weapon. You only get a 5-second buff, and it's 30% impact strength. And you have to shoot all of your ammo out of your ranged weapon to do this, so it's only useful on certain weapons, right? 20% sprint stamina cost. Wow. 6% reload speed on melee kills, stacks 5 times. This class has 20% reload speed that you just get all the time for killing a single enemy. You don't need to take these nodes. These nodes are all like D tier stuff, and it's like 1/3 of the whole tree is these D tier sort of nodes. They're just really, really bad, and the tree is like saturated in them. But this class also has some crazy S tier things, and I think that's like the thing that makes Arbites so stupid good and good for like casual beginning players is if you just start throwing nodes in this tree and come on down and just go on down and grab yourself, you're gonna hit a bunch of S tier nodes. You're gonna have a bunch of stacked up strength, and they're strong enough that players understand fundamentally, like, oh yeah, Castigator seems really good, pick that. So my overall take on this class is that it is very, very strong. Very, very, very strong. And I'm glad that there are a lot of S tier perks. It allows you to diversify your builds and have have different ways, different play styles. I'm glad that the different abilities are all relatively useful. I'm glad that the different dog keystones are relatively useful. The blitzes being all fairly equal. I think there's definitely some work to be done in getting this class into order. I think he is perhaps a little bit too strong for the game, but at the same time, they could also just make the game harder. They could also just up the skill ceiling, or like the demand for like high level players of the game. I think that would be my preferred thing for Darktide going forward, is to just, you know what, we can keep this. This could be a new standard for classes, but there needs to be something even harder to grind against, because players in the middle to low end of the spectrum, they love this class, right? They're having a lot of fun with the class, and that at the end of the day is the operative thing, is have fun with it. So as long as players are having fun, I don't have any problem with the class being powerful, but once players like really figure this out and they start just rolling over Havoc will become less fun, and that's where I get my fun. I derive my fun from it. So I just want that to stay competitive and stay challenging, so that we can continue to have fun. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was a good video, I think. If you've made it this far, comment and say what should they comment, chat. What should they comment in the bottom of the video? They should comment. There you go. Thank you, Bones Throne. They should comment 41. 41. Sum 41. Oh, there we go. Comment sum 41 at the bottom of the video, because the sum of all S's was 41. Alright, let's check out this bleed thing. We might have one more S tier perk on our guys. It might be some 42-year-old.
42! There's something about that number!
Alright guys, and that wraps everything up. So tell me in the comments, what do you think? Did I pretty much agree with what your sentiments were? Were there some shockers there? Is there anything that you would like to debate with me? I'm totally open to changing my opinions. As I said in the thing, this is my opinions based on about 100 to 120 hours of gameplay and experimentation, and just, immersing myself in the Arbites class. But, that can all be subject to change, right? We're only a week into live launch, and I bet there's some more secrets that are destined to come out for the class that'll shift the meta up a little bit. But I had a ton of fun making this with you guys, and I hope to see you very soon for more Tier List Week stuff. All right, Mystery out. Bye.